Greetings! This is General CRG here, and today, well, we are continuing to celebrate Revenge of the Sith's 20th anniversary, and this time we have a very special treat that we're pretty excited to talk about because it's definitely one of our favorites, and yeah, well, it's the Revenge of the Sith video game. And with me, I got...
The always dependable Captain Henson.
And?
Jedi Knight Luke, I hope you guys are all well, and this should be interesting.
Okay, well, without further ado, let's begin. So, I guess the first thing we should do is talk about our first experience with the game. So, okay, who wants to go first with how they got started with the game?
Well, I'll go first since I have the least amount of experience with it. So, I didn't really know this game existed until maybe like 7, 8 years ago or so. And I saw it at my local comic shop, bought it, came with a mini version of issue 1 of the Revenge of the Sith comic adaptation. I started to play it. I don't know if I got past the invisible hand. And, I enjoyed it well enough, but I wasn't in love with the game. And I never got around to finishing it, so for this video, I decided to just watch a walkthrough, which served me well enough. I mostly care about the story here rather than the gameplay, and boy, howdy, I can't wait to talk about that.
Is that it?
Yes.
Okay, look.
Okay, this is a game that holds a very special place in my heart, mainly out of sentiment, but it is still a game that I go back to every now and again, and it's one that I've played a lot of. So, my first experience with it was with the console version, and this is going way back to my primary school years, basically. A really close family friend of mine, who was also a big Star Wars fan himself, had the game, and when we'd go and see those friends of ours, during this period of my life, there were quite a few sessions where he and I would play the versus mode of this game via the two-player co-op feature, and he definitely won against me more than I won against him, put it that way. But once I knew the game existed, based off of that, eventually I think I would have been 7 or 8 by the time I actually got my own copy of it, and it's just been a staple of my Star Wars gaming binges ever since.
Okay. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then that leaves to me. So, my first experience with the Episode 3 video game? Well, to put it simply, it was part of my hype train for Episode 3. I've mentioned this story before in Defending Revenge of the Sith and a few other videos, but to put it simply, it was this video game my first ever glimpse into the Episode 3 marketing back then, because there was a trailer stored in the DVD of Clone Wars 2003, the first volume, and I watched that so many times. Like, let's just say I was just really wanting to just see what was gonna happen in Episode 3. I just really was so hyped for it. Surprisingly, I watched the movie first before playing the console version later on, because the console version I got it until I was like 10 years old for the PS2. So my experience with that version was much later. It's the handheld version where I have more time into. But yeah, console version I was until I first saw it when I was like 7 to 8 years old with the DVD. And then later I got actual experience with it when I was 10 years old. So that's my first experience with this one. And yeah, very interesting for experience to put it lightly. So yeah, and that's definitely my first experience with the console version. So yeah. So without further ado, speaking of the console version, so let's begin with discussing the console versions. So, guys, what is the first thing you'd like to tackle? You want to tackle the gameplay first, the little bits of story there? Which one shall we do first?
Well, I guess a quick thing I would like to bring up is in regards to the use of the movie clips. So, I knew about that going into the game. This was very much a movie tie-in of the mid-2000s. It has that stench to it, for better and for worse. And, I mean, it could have been worse, but, like, overall, it did feel jarring going from those movie actors to then what are basically the stand-ins. And I'm sure this just wasn't in the budget, but I would have preferred to go full-on in-game cinematics. But also the fact that the story itself is just so jumbled and so incomprehensible at points that it makes the use of movie clips also weird. Because the movie clips are clearly setting something up or paying off something that just, like, is not the case in the game. I might be saying that just because I'm so used to that movie. I will say this, though. The one good thing about using the movie clips here is getting some bits that were either deleted from the movie or alternate takes.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Like, we have an added Dooku line, which I honestly wish was in the movie. It was,
Just because there are two of you, do not assume you have the advantage.
great line. Wish that was in the movie.
There's
and
also
then-
another one actually that was cut. When Anakin is talking to Palpatine in regards to the Separatists being taken care of, rather than cutting to the Mustafar section where she just like send a message to the Trade Federation, he actually says,
You have restored peace and justice to the galaxy, Lord Vader.
Thank you, my master.
there's a few others as well.
Having those deleted lines here is like the only reason I'm glad they used movie clips.
Well,
Although the downside here is that, well, actually, if we were to get this game remastered, I'm sure they would use the best quality footage of the movies. Otherwise, they're just stuck in standard definition
yeah, obviously.
and all that DVD glory.
Yeah. Just make sure they don't compress it into 4K visuals like a certain other remaster of Star Wars did.
Oh, you mean upscale the visuals to 4K and then not compress them?
Yeah. Asper.
And as Henson said with the Battlefront Classic Collection, this is a 2005 game, there's no need to upscale them that highly.
Yeah. In regards to the story details with this game, there isn't much new because it's an adaptation of episode 3, so a large chunk of the story is basically that. Obviously trimmed down and parts cut because, well, it's an adaptation, it's meant to be more of a game than actually telling the whole story. So yeah, obviously there's plenty of differences. What I do like more is some of the moments in some of the levels pretty much are like actual cut content from the episode 3, like the freaking sewer level in the Invisible Hand. That definitely, Anakin and Obi-Wan pretty much just cutting in the floor and just going down. That definitely is cut content from the actual movie, which is also pretty cool. So they kept it for the game.
And small fun fact with that, they completely omit Shakti from that.
Ah. Well, Shakti's not even...
Well, that is another element here. I wish, although I don't know what deleted content we could have had. Like, I would have loved to have had the Grievous's original introduction as a scene here. Just because I think that is a great introduction to that character. Although, I will say, I much prefer how this game handles Grievous than the movie.
I guess a good way we can approach the game is if we go in chronological order, going from level to level. So that will make it much easier for us to talk about both the story and even the gameplay. So I guess we first begin in, obviously, the Invisible Hand, where pretty much Anakin and Obi-Wan are going to rescue Palpatine. And the first level, pretty easy, not that difficult in terms of difficulty, but it is a pretty good introduction. And in regards to the first few levels, you know, the one in the hangar, then the sewer one, and then of course the elevators. So what do you guys got to say on those?
So I think overall the Invisible Hand, the levels we have in the Invisible Hand, you know, feel right here. Like, we have the inclusion, sort of the deleted scene where Obi-Wan and Anakin go into, what was it, the engine?
Yeah, the
Fuel level.
Fuel level, which looked like a sewer level for some reason.
So, you know, that made sense, and then going through the ship, fighting Dooku, and then eventually getting to the bridge. I do think overall this was a good introduction, and in terms of the plot here, all feels right. The banter between Obi-Wan and Anakin is great. And yeah, although I will say, we see Grievous wearing his cape in the movie clip, but then he's just not wearing it in the game.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But you know, you see that sort of thing throughout the game where there's just a discrepancy between the movie clips and then the in-game models.
There's another example of that in a later level, but we'll get there when we get there.
There is that, yeah. One of the things I gotta mention about the Invisible Hand levels is that a lot of them are Anakin's levels, whereas Obi-Wan only gets one, which is something. I know Anakin is the main character of Episode 3, but damn, I mean, Obi-Wan really didn't have much to do in the Invisible Hand. I know because he's gonna be handling the Utapau sections, but damn, he really just got one? Just something.
And I will say it was having Anakin kill Dooku by impaling him rather than fucking cutting off his head. Gotta say, the impact, just not there.
It was just a very quick stab, not much.
Well, I do find it interesting. You know, the movie, Anakin decapitates him. Here, stabs him. In Lego Star Wars, he, like, doesn't stab him, but just, like, swings the two lightsabers down.
It decapitates him similarly, but with less hesitation.
And then, of course, there is the fact that he has no hesitation, and Palpatine doesn't really do much here.
Oh, yeah.
Although, we do have a callback to Return of the Jedi where Anakin and Dooku cross blades in front of Sidious.
Oh,
and I'm surprised that wasn't done in the movie, because that feels like a very George Lucas thing to do.
Oh, yeah.
Actually,
I mean, I know Palpatine being in that specific kind of chair is already a callback, but the fact that you didn't have that image there surprises me.
They even I wonder if the collective, who are the developers, even did that moment, like right down to the orientation of it, as a bit of foreshadowing, because you think back to that moment in Return of the Jedi, Palpatine is in his throne, Luke is on the right, and Vader is on the left. But with this callback to that in the Episode 3 game, Dooku is on the right, analogous to where Luke was, and ironically, Anakin is on the left, analogous to where he would be as Vader.
Yeah, that I actually didn't realize that was a callback to Return of the Jedi. I should have known, but I didn't realize it until you mentioned it. I didn't notice about that one. I guess I should have known. I mean, I knew the drone obviously was a obvious callback. The Crossing Blades one definitely didn't cross my mind as being referenced to Return of the Jedi. So, but yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely one of my favorite moments in the game.
Now, as for the actual lightsaber duel itself against Dooku, well, the two battle droids are nowhere to be seen, so there is that, though others do show up later on that you can dispatch off. The battle is not hard, per se, but
It gave me trouble when I was playing it.
I was going to say that the first time actually will be problematic, yeah. It definitely can be pretty challenging, especially if you don't know how to block attacks. You probably will be using a lot of the mind trick in the first half of it, in order to cheese through it.
And especially if this was a game that you grew up with, which a lot of us did, I dare say that the first couple of boss fights in the game are sort of like trauma flashbacks for thinking back on yourselves. Because I remember struggling with Dooku a lot when I was very young.
I did struggle with him for a while, but I did manage to beat him. It's another boss fight that I struggled a lot and actually made me take forever to actually beat the game until I finally did it one time, and we'll get to that later on. But yeah, Dooku definitely was. It's challenging, but he's not the hardest of the boss fights in the game. So he definitely can be beatable. Even if you spam the freaking mind trick, you will still be able to beat him. So yeah, and the invisible hand is also it's also the part where you see R2-D2 the most in this game because after the invisible hand, you pretty much don't see him again except for one movie cutscene, and that's about it. So yeah.
The invisible hand is the only stretch where you see R2 in game.
Yeah. So. And speaking of Invisible Hand, here we get introduced to some new anime designs that we pretty much will not see in any other form of media, at least not that much. The obvious one, the B2 grapple droids. Those freaking... they look like the B1 battle droids, but they have these huge hands that will pretty much hug the shit out of you. And yes, I do literally mean hug the shit out of you.
Oh, if you think those are bad, and they are, especially if you're ill-equipped to deal with them, but if you think those are bad, just wait until we cover another enemy type.
Oh, actually, here's an interesting tidbit in the game guide. Based on the Super Battle Droid model, the grapple droid was designed specifically for the Separatist siege on Coruscant.
Huh.
General Grievous himself personally oversaw its modifications. So, well, at least with this particular enemy type, we have an in-universe shown up since then. Well, thanks TCW for that fucking retcon.
You mean Son of Dathomir, yeah. Well.
But, you know, I will say, I do like the new enemy types here. They don't feel out of place. They're fucking annoying to deal with, but at the very least, design and usage-wise, they feel right at home with the other droids in the case of clones.
Oh, I was going to mention that the other new droid design that was introduced in the Invisible Hand is the B1 air battle droids, the ones introduced in the elevator sequence. Those, they're annoying, but not the worst enemy. But they are annoying, I will say that much. So, yeah.
So, if we're talking about enemy types, we should at least make a mention of the gameplay loop. After all, this is a game that we're discussing. So, for those of you who have never played this before, the Revenge of the Sith game is a very linear, level-to-level 3D beat-em-up that relies very much on combo attacks, with you playing as Anakin and Obi-Wan, mixing your light and heavy lightsaber attacks in conjunction with your Force abilities to get through the day. And it's not the most in-depth combat system, but it's surprisingly fun. And if you take the necessary time to learn the combos and the upgrade system, which I imagine we'll talk about shortly, you can be quite the baller if you know what you're doing in terms of sending the enemies packing.
You know, the thing that surprises me about the combat system, although this goes for quite a few Star Wars games, this is the only game with this system in it. I'm honestly shocked we didn't get a game with this engine and combat system.
Like, what would you have wanted to see this game as a template for elsewhere?
I'm not saying, like, I would want it, although sure I would, but just I'm surprised they never tried to use this again. You know, why was this just a one-time thing? I feel like we've got a few more games with this engine and
Well,
combat.
here's the reason why. Because in 2007, the Collective were merged into another company called Shine Entertainment, and then they all were merged into Double Helix Games. So that's pretty much why the Collective was basically no more by 2007.
I mean, did the Collective own this particular combat system?
They had a hand in multiple games, even tie-ins from Men in Black the game to Star Trek Deep Space Nine. They even did Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb. So it seems that they definitely had a hand in on using that type of engine and technology, because Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb definitely does feel similar in terms of visuals, at least. Combat is definitely different, very different, but the engine does seem to be similar. So they definitely had technology there, but once they were like belly up, well, not belly up, more like merged into another company, it was like, yeah, they weren't really doing much anymore. So yeah, and then after they merged, they made Silent Hill Homecoming, good. Then G.I. Joe: The Rise of Cobra, published by EA. And then Green Lantern: Rise of the Manhunters. Oh god, that's considered one of the worst games ever. And then they made Killer Instinct for Microsoft 2013. And then the last thing they did was Strider, and then it was like done. That was the last thing they did. So once they became Double Helix Games, they were like just doing all sorts of different types of games. So I don't know if they were using the same engine, but they were changing the gameplay styles. So they didn't stick to what they used to. So yeah, I guess the closest would have been Green Lantern: Rise of the Manhunters, but not nearly as good as the Episode 3 games. So yeah. So that's why, Henson. Because company doesn't exist anymore. So yeah.
I would have thought that even with that, LucasArts could have used the engine or combat system, but whatever. Sooner or later, no one's gonna remember this game anyways.
It's a shame. I do really like the game. But you know what? I'll say more of my thoughts on it in conclusion. So yeah. So the Invisible Hand. Anything else you guys want to mention on the Invisible Hand?
No.
Look, got nothing else to say?
There were a few minor things with the gameplay loop, like the minor obstacles you encounter, but I guess those could be spoken about elsewhere.
Yeah, I will mention the Magna Guards having magnetic feet was a pretty cool detail. I will say that much.
The fact that the Magna Guards are missing their
Apes.
cloth coverings.
Some of them do have it, some of them don't. So I guess it isn't really like a lore issue. But then again, there is the movie cuts in there showing them they do have it. So yeah. Was that the bit you were talking about, Luke, in regards to the models being a bit inaccurate to what we see in the movie?
I actually completely forgot about that until Henson brought it up. No, it's actually to do with one of the boss fights. Again, get there when we get there.
Okay, fair enough. So yeah. Well, if there's anything else to mention on the Invisible Hand, then I guess we can now go to the next part of the campaign. And this is where Obi-Wan finally gets a time to shine. Because Obi-Wan only had one level in the Invisible Hand. Crazy he didn't get at least two, but okay. So yeah, now here's his time to shine. One thing I'll mention about Obi-Wan's levels, his levels, to compensate for having less levels than Anakin, because Anakin has 10, Obi-Wan has 7. To compensate for having less, they made his levels longer than Anakin's. They usually range from like 7 to 8 minutes. There's only one level that does get to the same amount as Obi-Wan, which is like 12 to 13 minutes each, which we'll get to later on. So yeah, to compensate, they make him longer. So his do tend to be a bit on the longer side. And out of the two characters, in regards to Anakin and Obi-Wan, I like more Anakin's attacks and combos more than Obi-Wan's, but I'm pretty proficient with both. So I can use either one, no problem, but I do prefer more Anakin's way of attacking, especially for chaining combos. Whereas Obi-Wan's, he's a bit less on the combo heavy, so yeah. Plus, Anakin has some really sick lightsaber attacks when you combine the square and the triangle, or the X and Y buttons. It is pretty cool. Obi-Wan, he has some, but not that many, so yeah. And this is also where we should mention that in regards to the combat system, some attacks you can actually make them stronger using the force by holding down the button in the specific attack, which definitely helps, especially for breaking blocks from enemies, which will definitely come in handy in the later parts of the campaign, especially when we get to stuff like the stupid grapple droids or the Magna Guards, of course, those bastards. Yeah, I think that is pretty cool, and yeah. So, look, Henson, what do you guys got to say on Utapau?
So, this is really the part of the game where you can really feel the missing chunks of the movie, and quite frankly, the story just becomes incomprehensible. And while I think the levels of the Invisible Hand were well handled and none of it feeling fillery or unnecessary, here though, yeah, I definitely felt that. Obi-Wan traveling or sneaking around Utapau, fair enough, but then suddenly his Boga ride just shows up out of fucking nowhere in a movie cutscene and then disappears soon after. But then I believe it's the second level on Utapau, where we start the level saying that, oh, Grievous is nowhere to be found, and then Obi-Wan just spends the entire level digging around pretty much. And then the level ends with him being told that, oh, we found Grievous. So like that entire level was completely pointless. And then the Boga ride appears out of nowhere again. We get to a boss fight with Grievous, and honestly, I prefer Obi-Wan's fight with Grievous here compared to the movie. I think Grievous, like, I understand what Lucas was going for in regards to Grievous's character, but I do think Grievous should have been a lot more of a... He should have been a stronger opponent. Like, the fact that he's killed so many Jedi and taking their lightsabers as trophies, like, give us a reason as to how he's able to do that. And here we see that Grievous is a strong opponent, and if you're by yourself fighting him, it's going to be a tough fight. So I'm happy for that, although I will say, I think Grievous's death here is far, far weaker than what it was in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
You know, in the movie, Obi-Wan shoots him in the chest, he starts catching fire spewing from his eyes, and then pop.
And don't forget, so uncivilized. That too.
But here, though, like, just one hit, frozen in place for a second, then drops. And just, again, the impact just is not there.
Yeah, this game definitely has sort of an obsession with having characters just dying with stabs that feel empty. Because this is not the last time that we'll see that in the boss. So, but yeah, it definitely...
Not to mention, I'm glad that, similarly to the Micro series, Grievous doesn't immediately pull out his 4 arms. He starts out with 2 and then goes to 4, which I just think should be the standard for that character, where he doesn't immediately go to 4. And remind me, when Obi-Wan kills him, they're not at Grievous's ship, right?
They are on the landing platform.
They are, yes.
And I was trying to remember that.
Yeah, they are in the landing platform, yeah. No, the ship does not get punched by Grievous like in the movie, but they are there. Anyway, so, yeah, I do think Grievous's portrayal in the video game definitely... I mean, you still have your mustache twirling moments, especially in the Invisible Hand, but here in Utapau, you actually do get him being more upfront about fighting Obi-Wan rather than escaping him. So I definitely do... I think this game is a definitely good middle ground between mustache twirling while also being the Jedi-killing badass that he used to be. So it's like a good compromise.
I'm also glad that Matthew Wood is voicing Grievous. I just think he's perfect for that voice, is perfect for that character. So we get to have a Grievous who's a mix between micro series and movie, and I think it balances out perfectly.
Yeah, and
this would be like one of the last times Grievous was portrayed good.
Yeah. Speaking of the Utapau levels, now here's where you probably will want to talk about. Look, the gameplay. Well, most straightforward, fine. The freaking boss, the Craft tank droid, To put it simply, this boss gave me trouble
Yes.
when I literally first played the game, mostly because I had no idea how to grapple properly. Actually, I think I tried a few times, but I was unable to hit it until at one point I was like, finally, I grappled this thing and I'm on top of him and I'm just pretty much striking him down. Because it was possible to do it. You can even see in the intro of the game when you first put it up that, yeah, that is how you beat him, but it was just freaking hard to do it at first. But yeah, I was able to do it. Oh, by the way, the grapple droids, the B2 grapple droids, they also still show up here, now dressed in red rather than blue. So I guess they're the remaining droids, you know, because they were used for the Siege of Coruscant, but now I guess some of them were stored in for using Utapau or something, or it's just gameplays or whatever. So
You know, I will say one of the reasons the second Utapau level feels so pointless to me is fighting the crab droid again.
okay, yeah, fair enough.
But that's another thing too. You know, throughout the Invisible Hand levels, we are constantly introduced to, you know, new enemy types, new ways to use the Force, combat system. You get to the Utapau level and you don't really get anything new.
Well, the crab tank droid, the first level, that's one new. And
Yeah, but
also
that's just
having-
a boss. That's not a reoccurring enemy.
You also have to escape from the turrets, because there's this section that you have to run from the 3 turrets.
Yeah, that's really the only thing the Utapau levels have going for it. I mean, once you get to the Mustafar stuff, then, you know, you're back to getting, you know, new enemy type stuff. So Utapau is basically just more of the Invisible Hand, but just with more filler.
I do think the crab tank boss in the second level, yeah, definitely filler, because I do think I already fought this boss. I don't need to fight it again. So yeah, definitely agree with that. But I did really like seeing Obi-Wan fighting alongside the clones in that level. I mean, because that's a moment we just see in the movie. Like, we don't really actually see them, like, fighting together or anything, unless you, of course, play Star Wars Battlefront 2. But having it in this game is kind of pretty cool, like, honestly. It is one of my favorite parts of the game, actually. Just having the two of them, like, fighting together, like, it is pretty cool. Obviously, my least favorite part is fighting the crab tank droid again, but I did really like the moments where, yeah, Obi-Wan and the clones were fighting together against the droids. I thought that was pretty cool. Like, that's for me. I don't know what you think, Luke. What do you think of the Utapau levels?
To be honest, levels 7 to 9, I'll take the Invisible Hand over the Utapau levels personally. Like you, General, I do enjoy Anakin's combat style more than Obi-Wan's. For those who are unaware, Anakin's play style is fitting with his actual character in the lore. He is very much the aggressor. Obviously, you have to be careful because you don't want to get yourself killed, but he is definitely the better equipped of the two to bulldoze through most situations, especially with his more advanced combos. Obi-Wan, he does have some good combos, but he is much more... When you do take the offensive with him, he's much more of a counter-offensive fighter, with his comparatively more limited moveset.
Yeah.
And that's something to be aware of. And I suppose it ties in with the actual lore as well, because Obi-Wan is the master of Surisu, which kind of goes counterintuitive with a beat-em-up game. So in the context of this game, to excel with Obi-Wan, your offense has to be counter-offense rather than taking the initiative.
Yeah, this is also where the Force powers are going to have to come in handy for Obi-Wan. Anakin as well, but Obi-Wan definitely, because he doesn't have that many good combos. Although a good chunk of the enemies will demand combos. Though there is another mechanic in the game that actually is the main reason you'd want to do as many lightsaber combos as possible, because with Force powers you're not going to be getting this meter up. And I'm talking, of course, about the saber style meter. I believe that's what it's called. But if you got the guide Henson there, you can pretty much look for the actual name of it. I'm talking about the meter that you have to increase with the lightsaber attacks in order to go from fair to getting fair points to good to then impressive and then masterful. And the higher you go, the more experience points you gain, which also leads into the upgrade system that we have for both characters, which basically you can improve from your standard attacks to some dash attacks, jump attacks, area attacks, even critical attacks, grapples, and then of course you upgrade the force powers as well. From
Okay, well, let me just read out what's written here.
Okay.
During the story missions, you earn experience points when you defeat an enemy. The amount of points you receive depends on your skill meter. Skill accumulates as you attack enemies. Even blocked attacks receive some skill, but at a lower rate than for hits. Your skill meter actually decreases as you take hits, block attacks, or don't attack anything for a period of time. Therefore, it is beneficial to stay on the offensive as much as possible. Whenever an enemy is defeated, you receive a combat. Your skill level is low, you receive a failing and the appropriate experience points, yada yada. Finally, if you can completely fill the skill meter, you get a masterful rate, 300% bonus for a limited amount of time. In addition, each attack during this masterful period causes increased damage, and enemies cannot block your attacks. At the mission's end, your total experience points earned are tallied. You can then use these points to upgrade your force power and/or to attack combos. The experience points earned during a mission are only applied to the Jedi you controlled. Therefore, during the course of the story missions, you upgrade both Anakin and Obi-Wan separately.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, you have the secrets.
Yeah.
Health Surge, Force Surge, and Saber Crystal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so this is actually the very first time when playing this game that I have very consciously tried to do something I've never done before, and you prepared for a little mini rant?
Oh, I do love me some good old rants.
For those of you who have never played this game before, the combat system, or more specifically the experience system, it takes a lot of cues from things like Dynasty Warriors or even the Lord of the Rings tie-in games that EA did during this same period, and that's where the skill ratings come from. Now, as Henson read out with the game guide description, there is the meter in your heads-up display, which tracks your kills, and it goes from fair to masterful. The more enemies you kill, the more that meter fills, and if enemies back you against the wall, the quicker you will lose that meter. And for the first time ever, I actually tried to get maximum experience on every single level as I was playing the game in order to fully upgrade the 2 Jedi. And it's not impossible, but it's much harder than it should be because of the very, very counterintuitive way that the combos and consequently the experience actually work. In order to get the maximum experience on every single level, you have to not get hit, or at least try and avoid that as much as possible, and this is the real killer if you're consciously trying to do this, you have to prolong engagements with certain enemy types to get that skill meter up, especially if you're trying to compensate for skill rating that you've lost within the progression of that meter. And the masterful bonus, as great as it is, it's only available to you for a limited amount of time unless you find those saber crystals, in which case you will get more than one chance throughout certain levels, but those masterful crystals also only give you the masterful rating for a certain amount of time. So it's this very counterintuitive way of trying to manage your skill rating in order to get the appropriate experience, and it's not fun.
That's actually how I've been playing the game more recently, in order to basically because I want to keep the skill level rating as high as possible. I actually tend to usually keep it between good and impressive, sometimes reaching masterful, and I've actually gone pretty good at it. That I have maximized a few levels, not all of them, but I've been getting a damn good amount, especially because I wanted to actually get all the necessary upgrades that I wanted for both Anakin and Obi-Wan. The only upgrades I did like fully upgrade in terms of the attacks, not the force powers, was the grapples in the area of attacks. The criticals, dashes, and jumps I did not fully upgrade. I only upgraded to level 2 because I need more XP for that. And for Anakin you maybe could get it, but for Obi-Wan it will be hard because of the less levels in there. So it's definitely difficult to maximize them. So my suggestion is maximize all the force powers, all of them, especially force heal. Maximize all of them, and then for the attacks, only maximize grapples and area of attacks. The other 3 keep them at least at level 2. Why grapples and area of attacks? Grapples because because will be pretty useful against enemies that are just trying to block so much. This goes in particular to Magna Guard's grapple droids, Jedi, and bosses, so definitely will be pretty useful in those. And area of attacks because those also will be able to pretty much make it so that if you're surrounded by so many enemies, you can at least be able to execute one of the area attacks to pretty much be able to break free from that. And also if you need to just deal some extra damage without an interruption. So those 2 will be absolutely useful. The others not so much. Criticals, I mean they're pretty cool, especially because the basic one is just stabbing in the chest and that's it. But the others, they're actually pretty cool. Anakin, you can pretty much just grab somebody, lifts him, and lifts him with the hand, as in not force grip, and literally just stabs him directly in the gut, which does look badass and sinister. And then also with a force grip, he actually just force grips the enemy to the ground, submits him, and stabs him in the chest. That one also looks pretty cool. Obi-Wan's is less deadly looking and more just he just slices 2 hands and then stabs him in the chest, the enemy, and then the other one he just levitates the enemy and just throws the lightsaber in there. So it's not as bad as looking as Anakin's, but they're effective. So but yeah, so you get more attacks the more you level them up, yeah, which definitely it is encouraged, but go for grapples and area of attacks. Maximize those. The others keep at level 2. Force powers, maximize the shit out of them. Don't leave them behind. So yeah, secrets will definitely be they're not hard to find. Well, not hard in the sense that you will find some, and it helps that Anakin or Obi-Wan say, I sense something here, or the Force tell me something here, which means that there usually is a secret nearby where you are. So that will help to at least tell you, okay, there must be a secret here. So that will help. And you will need those secrets because the secrets also increase your health and force meters. That's the way that you increase them in this game. So you're definitely going to have to find some of them. The Saber Crystal is not that useful because it just increases the level to Masterful. So it's not as useful as the health and force ones. You need to get those, definitely. So... yeah, look.
If I can just tie that back very quickly, the Saber Crystal, which automatically boosts your kill meter to Masterful, it's not necessary in and of itself, but it's fucking required if you are trying to get maximum experience on every single level. And this is just another little bone I meant to pick. Maximum experience. This is not one of those games where you can just replay a level in and of itself over and over again to get experience for skills that you haven't fully upgraded already. Every single level has a unique number of secrets, although that's not the issue, and it's unique, a unique amount of experience for those tree upgrades, which is the real annoyance, because once you've gained a certain amount of skill in that particular level, or a certain amount of experience, if you then don't do better than that the next time you play through it, you won't get any more experience. So if you're trying to get maximum experience on every level, looking at you and explosive development, then things like the Saber Crystals, yeah, that's where they become mandatory. And again, it's not fun. So do the best you can, guys, if you've never played this game before with upgrading, but don't pull your teeth out like we did.
Look, there's one thing to mention. The secrets, you can only get them once in a playthrough. Meaning that if you found the Saber Crystal, in repeat playthroughs, you will not be able to get it again. Meaning that it's going to be harder to maximize the masterful level in repeat playthroughs versus the first time.
And that's what makes the Saber Crystal secrets really annoying. The health and force ones, if you miss them, you can play those levels again to get those, and they remain permanent upgrades every time you get them. Not the same for the Saber Crystals, so you can't farm for experience as a cheap way to max your skills for anyone who's not played this game before.
Surprisingly, I've been able to get more depth of actually being able to get that skill meter high enough in repeat playthroughs, even without the Saber Crystal. So I guess some perseverance, and also helps having the abilities fully upgraded. Force powers and shit pretty much helped. So I guess definitely with repeat playthroughs you can get it, but it will be difficult. So there is that. Oh, gotta mention something about the Utapau levels. Grievous, his boss fight, definitely much harder than Dooku's. So he definitely is not that easy for pushover, I'll tell that much. So stay on your guard for that one, because he does tend to be problematic. At least he doesn't use Force Heal, so he won't be able to recover his health, but still, he's still pretty difficult.
Yeah, Grievous, so one of his key traits as established by Revenge of the Sith is his hacking cough, and obviously there's context to that. If you've seen the Clone Wars micro series, you know why that is. He doesn't cough at all in his in-game portrayal. He is full-on instinct-driven killer, and I would actually, if you guys disagree, feel free to say. I actually think an argument could be made for Grievous because he's incredibly fast. You do not want to try and match Grievous's offensive output head to head in that fight. He will crush you. The best chance you've got is to wait for his attack chains to finish and then counter by attacking him in the openings.
Yeah, definitely I agree with that. Yeah, it's definitely difficult. Because every time I go head front to try and attack him, he blocks attacks and he immediately goes and attacks. His attacks are harder to block, so yeah, definitely don't go on the offensive directly against him. So yeah, with Dooku at least you were more able to go offensive, but with Grievous, no, don't try it. Definitely Force powers will come in handy, especially the Mind Trick and the Force Heal. So keep those in mind. But you definitely need to be a lot more on the defense on this one. I guess actually being the Master of Swords too, for once.
Oh, and that's the other thing. Grievous, his defense is incredibly strong. Like you can try to match him head to head, and he will block 4 or 5 attack chains straight, and then he's able to go in with one of his 2 primary combos and absolutely shred you to pieces if you are not careful.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, definitely mindful when fighting Grievous on this one. So yeah, I do like how Grievous in this fight, he definitely, as we said before, he's close to his 2003 incarnation, but I find it funny how he just thinks that, oh, I'm just gonna slash Obi-Wan's face, leave him unconscious in the cave, and just putting the explosive in the entrance. Oh, that's gonna kill him. It's like, and then Obi-Wan just comes out and is like, you'll have to do better than that. And it's like, okay, 4 lightsabers now. Let's do this. I found
that was like the one moment here where I'm like, what was the plan here? You had him knocked out. You could have easily killed him any number of ways.
Yeah.
What the fuck was he thinking?
I honestly, I guess he was thinking, oh, Jedi's unconscious. I'm just gonna bury the shit out of him alive. Because for some reason he didn't want to, do it himself, even though that's exactly what he loves to do. I don't get it.
I'm actually going to be a contrarian here, because I think there is a certain possibility to this. Yes, Grievous did land that hit on Obi-Wan, pinning him against that rock, but I think Obi-Wan was still semi-conscious because his lightsaber was still active, and I think an argument could be made, because of course he very casually remarks, you'll have to do better than that. Like, there was no stress there at all. And I think what happened is he was just conscious enough that he had some perspective on where Grievous was and waited until Grievous wasn't making... didn't have his sights on him just before the bomb exploded.
I mean...
Like, and I think he sort of baited Grievous to a certain extent and managed to pull a last-second escape.
I guess? Don't know about that. I have no idea on that.
It's certainly possible, but
he's the master
either way.
of trolling. So,
I guess there's that. So yeah. Any final things to mention on the Utapau levels?
No.
from me, not particularly.
Okay, now we get to the Coruscant levels. Okay, now this is where shit hits the fan, both literally and gameplay just for the first one, which is Anakin versus Mace Windu. And let me tell you thought Grievous was hard? Mace Windu kicked the shit out of me so much when I first played the game that it literally took me forever to actually beat him at one point, and basically had me not finishing the game for so long until finally I actually beat him. But holy shit, yeah, Mace Windu's harder than Grievous. Somehow he is. But, I mean, then again, it's Mace Windu, so of course. But, I mean, Mace Windu is one of the few Jedi that canonically could actually match, maybe even beat Grievous alongside Yoda and, of course, Obi-Wan. So I guess it definitely makes sense that he will be superior to Grievous in this game. So, yeah. And, okay. So, before we get to the Jedi Temple levels, let's discuss these boss battles. So, Henson, I believe you will have some stuff to say on this one, so go ahead.
So, you could already feel the missing story pieces with Utapau, but you really feel it. Like, Anakin just takes a... Without any of the Padme stuff, Anakin's turn feels completely out of the fuck. Like, people say that his turn to the dark side felt rushed in the movie. No. I can't even call it rushed because there was absolutely no fucking development.
Barely any.
But him fighting Mace is like really fucking interesting, and I've said before that one of my biggest complaints with the movie is the fight between Palpatine, because you can tell just how unprepared and last minute it was. But here it completely skips over that, and we get a fight between Anakin and Mace. And the dialogue between these two kind of makes me wish we got this in the movie. Although, it's tricky because in the movie, it's just a split-second decision that Anakin immediately regrets. But then, he has no choice but to commit further. Here, though, Anakin is just like completely dark side here, and him fighting Mace and Mace having these comments basically calling him out for this. Again, a part of me wishes we had seen this in the movie, because the relationship between those two characters I think is really interesting, but it's not really touched upon all that much. So it is cool to get a nice little bow on it here. Although it is funny having to, go outside, go back inside, get back to the office, and then once, Anakin fucking throws Mace out of the window, then we cut. Suddenly, we're back into the movie stuff, and it just feels so fucking weird. Because, Anakin going through that entire fucking boss fight, fully committed to the dark side, only to then immediately go, what have I done? Just feels off.
You want to know something that feels off? The fact that before the fight you see Palpatine still in his human face self, but in the whole fight the character model is still his human self, and then when the fight finishes, then after the what have I done, you see him in his deformed self without having no context with how he even became the deformed Darth Sidious look. Because in this one we did not get to see Mace Windu blocking the Force Lightning from Palpatine.
I feel like that would have been an easy thing to include here, but whatever.
Yeah, there is that. Indeed. Actually, okay, there is one thing that I'm gonna mention. Some people have speculated online if Anakin would realistically be able to beat Mace Windu in a lightsaber duel, and plenty of people say Mace Windu would have actually beat the shit out of him. There are a few others say Anakin would have. Others say Mace Windu. So which explain which some people use as a way to say, yeah, that's why we didn't get an Anakin versus Mace Windu fight in the movie, because canonically it would not make any sense. Anakin would have definitely been beaten by Windu easily. I don't know what you guys think of that.
Okay, so just very quickly from continuity in terms of visuals, and then very quickly touching upon Mace, and then very quickly talking about Mace as an in-game boss, and into the logistics of the Anakin versus Mace argument, because I wondered if this was going to come up. So, in terms of visual differences, one thing. So you mentioned about Palpatine in-game, his in-game model not being deformed by the Force lightning, because it's odd. The game skips over that, but the game treats it in-game as though it never happened, because there's no deformation on his face. But he's also wearing still his invisible hand garments, not the red robes that he actually wore during the fight with Mace. And in terms of Mace as an in-game boss, he is strong, he is fast, he does not mess around, and Mace is probably... Grievous and Mace are probably the bosses that really rub in your face if you're not prepared. The fact that you need those secrets on top of the leveling up with the upgrade trees, because if you don't have those upgrades on your side, you would otherwise have to be a master of the game's combat in order to beat Mace, which I'd imagine most people probably haven't mastered this game's combat to the extent that they could beat him upgrade free. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So make sure you're prepared in that sense. And in terms of the logistics from a lore standpoint with the Anakin versus Mace debate, I mean, firstly, this boss fight is kind of fulfilling a lot of fans' dreams, given the tension that existed between Anakin and Mace in the movie. But then in terms of the logistics, so getting into outside sources here a little bit. For those who don't know, Anakin is a master of Form 5, specifically the Gem-So variant by this point. He did start off when he transitioned to Form 5 with Shien, but as the Clone Wars progressed, he became a Degem-So master, which Degem-So is kind of a milder... It's kind of a milder version of Zhuyo without leaning so deep into the dark side. It's a very offensive dueling-based form, and on top of Anakin being a master of that particular style, especially by this point, he is still emotionally unstable and doesn't have the greatest tactical sensibilities. And then that would basically hand Mace the victory, because Mace is the chief creator and practitioner of his own lightsaber form called Varpad, which is basically the counter to... It's the counterpart to Zhuyo that addresses the greatest weakness, because Zhuyo is such an aggressive style that in order to get the most out of that, you have to be in control of your rage, which involves delving into the dark side of the Force and controlling your anger as you fight. Whereas with Varpad, it addresses that weakness by sort of taking that dark energy, and it becomes this ever increasingly dangerous loop that you have to maintain and send that energy back at the opponent, which is a very basic version given in the Revenge of the Sith novelization for how Mace defeated Palpatine. And because Anakin kind of has one foot in the dark side already by the time of Episode 3, his weaknesses as a combatant would basically feed into the superconducting loop of Varpad, giving Mace a very easy edge. Because if he's able to maintain Sidious's dark side berserkery, then Anakin, as of Revenge of the Sith, would basically be a much quicker repeat of the Mace versus Sidious fight, I think, in a logistic sense. In this scenario, obviously, it's much closer to what would have happened in the movie because of plot convenience.
Yeah. Well, then I guess there is that answer. Because I haven't seen people online speculating on that, and some even use the video game as a reference, so that's why I definitely wanted to mention that, yeah. I did think that Mace would actually beat Anakin, yeah, because of Batpad, yeah. So, there is that. Anything else to mention on the Mace versus Anakin fight?
No.
Okay. Now, the Jedi Temple levels. Oh boy, okay. Well, fortunately, look, the Jedi Temple level, the first one, is actually one of the easiest to get full experience. That is because all of the enemies, or almost all of them, are melee-based enemies, meaning that you can pretty much attack them with the lightsaber attacks a lot more easily without having to worry about blaster bolts or anything else, reducing the skill level meter. So yeah, this one definitely is a really good one for maximizing the experience points. So yeah, though watch out with those freaking blue giant brute Jedi that show up, because those definitely they can be a bit annoying to deal with, or very annoying to deal with. But yeah, there are some turrets. I did forget about that, but yeah, this is definitely one of the better ones to maximize full experience. And to put it simply, the first thing we see here is literally Anakin killing Jocasta Nu. So now we know what happened to her because we didn't see it in the movie. Not even the novelization.
And nothing of value was lost.
Nah, lol. But yeah, so I like how this moment was actually made canon because of the Purge comic later on. So that was it is pretty cool. This is one of those moments from the game that means that this didn't happen. So this entire siege definitely happened how we see it here, with one small exception, which we'll get to later on. But yeah, I do think this is definitely one of the better levels. I did really like it, and yeah, you can definitely see just how damn aggressive Anakin is against all the Jedi, and it's just, yeah, it's a pretty awesome level. So yeah, what do you guys got to say on this one, on the Jedi Temple levels?
So, overall, really solid. Glad to see them turning this portion of the movie into proper level. You know, had Revenge of the Sith been like a mini series or something just to allow more time for things, this is the type of stuff I would have wanted to see in that proposed extended version. You know, just going through the Jedi Temple and seeing him just slaughter all these Jedi. Of course, I do have to unfortunately say this gets a 0 out of get to kill any younglings, but aside from that, you know, we kill an old lady, so, you know, that was nice.
You do kill Padawans that are like in the pre-teen age.
Yeah, but that's not the same. I will say, it is cool having Sindrala get a much larger role here. I mean, that makes sense given that Nick Gillard was involved in the game, which I'm sure is the only reason why his movie character is even here at all. But still, though, you know, it is cool to get a boss fight with a movie character, sorta. And plus, you know, it's not like he's got nothing to him. I mean, we see his Padawan, Sarah Keto.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's cool. And, you know, honestly, I will say this about Matt Lucas' performance. He really made edgy as shit. Like, you want to talk about mid-2000s or early to mid-2000s edge? just listen to Anakin in this game, and like everything he says, and just the way he says it, just feels like a teenager trying really, really hard. A try hard, if you will.
Well, I mean, that was the style back then, in the 2000s.
Yes, that was the style at the time.
I mean, yeah, it was definitely really cool having an actual fight with Syndrolic here, whereas in the movie you just see him in the hologram and that's it. So yeah, and I believe Nick Gillard really liked that in the game he actually had more to do, if I recall. Maybe.
Although I will say it was weird having Anakin say, "I am no longer the learner." Like, dude, save that for fucking Obi-Wan. Like, who is this guy to you?
Well, considering Syndrolic is considered to be the best lightsaber duelist and even the Battle Master and a Jedi Master, yeah, you know what? You might get cocky and just say, "This time, I'm the one teaching you the lesson, old man."
Well, yeah, but
or
you know,
more like
the whole learner bit from Episode 4, when I left you as but the learner now, but now I am the master. Where if he is to say that, it would make way more sense to say to Obi-Wan.
According to some outside sources, apparently both Obi-Wan and Anakin were actually taught by Syndrolic the forms 1 to 6. So basically, he actually did teach Anakin some things back then, especially before the Clone Wars. So it does actually make sense that, yeah, he would be like, "I'm no longer the learner," because he did actually learn stuff from Syndrolic back then.
We have Syndralic, we have Saraketa, but then we have a bunch. Well, I know they're not actually clones, but they might as well be since they look the fucking same. You know, we have Jedi Knights, which are Zabraks, the Jedi Padawans, which are all human women. So I guess at this point, all Padawans were just women, I guess. And then a fucking Jedi Sniper.
Yeah, I call snipers, even though they don't snipe shit.
I guess the name of the sniper comes from the saber thrower.
Jedi snipers have perfected the art of long-range attacks.
Oh, there you go.
So attuned to the Force are they. The snipers have achieved an almost symbiotic relationship with them, enabling them to throw and control their lightsabers long distances with devastating precision.
Huh.
Oh, with the exception of Jedi Master, Jedi snipers are the only Jedi who throw their lightsabers.
What?
You know, this actually does bring up a good
power.
point of why aren't our playable characters able to do that?
Lightsaber throwing?
Yes.
Well, I mean, they do. We do have to throw the lightsaber several times, some in order to either damage flying enemies, or including bosses, like the gunships, or to disable some mechanics. So you actually do throw the lightsaber several times, both Anakin and Obi-Wan. But if you're talking in uniplays,
Playthrough I watched, that just never happened.
yeah, there is like 2 to 3 moments where you have to throw lightsabers. Both have the gunship boss battles, and in both you have to either throw explosive canisters at them, or use the lightsaber throw. The lightsaber throw was taught to you in the second level of the game, in the Invisible Hand. You actually had to use it to disable some power couplings that were impeding your path. So you do that, and with Anakin you also have to use it. It's also pretty useful against the turrets, because it's either that or jumping and striking them down. So yeah, you do use the lightsaber throw several times in the game with both Anakin and Obi-Wan. So you do use it, but if you're talking about in-universe, Henson, as to the Jedi Snipers being the only ones to do lightsaber throw, I mean, I didn't know.
Well, obviously not. That's just what the game guide is saying.
I believe it probably means the only enemies.
Yeah, in the game.
Yeah, the only enemies.
Oh yeah, and the Jedi brutes as well.
Oh yeah, those guys. They're definitely the worst one to deal with in the Jedi Temple level.
The brutes are instructed from a young age in the Order's most direct and hands-on fighting. This alone is enough to dissuade those who would seek to degrade the Jedi Temple. Their fearsome appearance blaze their peaceful, intelligent nature. What species are these guys?
Those guys. They're apparently unidentified British blue species, so there's like no name. However, one of them did show up in the Purge comics, just as far. But as of being identified, yeah, no, not really. All we get is just one specific Jedi with name and everything. but no specific identification of the species. So, yeah, no, we don't have much.
So yeah, there you go. The Operation Nightfall only consisted of killing Zabraks, human women, human men, and then an unnamed blue species, and literally nothing else.
Right.
Oh, and one old woman, I guess.
And also the greatest, lightsaber experts in rolling and his Padawan. That too.
Definitely not, since he lost to fucking Anakin Skywalker.
Oh, well, there's that. Lol. Look, do you got something to say in regards to the Coruscant levels, particular GI Temple?
A few points. You guys kind of already brought it up, but I didn't realise how funny it really was until playing the game in preparation for this discussion. Yeah, the limited models that are used for all of the enemy Jedi, it paints a very interesting picture of Nightfall, just having humans, Zabraks, and then whatever the unidentified species are for the brutes. And actually, I just want to make a point with the Zabrak Knights. Why? Maybe we could touch upon this later on, actually. But there's a certain key Jedi from the film who is the exact same type of Zabrak as those knights, and we don't see him. We see plenty of them. But slaughtering all the Jedi, I've got to be honest, as much as I prefer the Jedi over the Sith, to do here, wrecking havoc through the temple. And the boss fight against Sarah and Sin, some pretty interesting things here. Sarah, she must have been an original character for the Episode 3 game, because I don't think she's ever been referenced because she's never referenced in subsequent Episode 3 media or Star Wars 10, the appearance that she has. And then in terms of Sin Dralek, funnily enough, they actually refined or reimagined his general appearance in this game compared to the film. Because his appearance in the film is so brief, a lot of people probably don't know this, but he's got kind of dark blondish hair and a brown tunic in the film, but he was redesigned consciously by the game's art team to reflect his status as a boss, which is why he's got the white hair tunic to help him stand out. And in terms of his... well, actually, Sarah is moderately challenging because she's got the dual blades, but Sin is tough from a gameplay perspective. Anakin may have slaughtered him in the actual lore, as in made easy work of him, but he is not to be messed around with as an in-game boss if you are not upgraded enough and not skilled enough with the combos. Sin can kick your ass 6 ways to Sunday.
Yeah. Fun fact, Sarah Keto actually does show up in the Clone Wars Adventures Volume 4. Confirmed canon that she actually fought in the Clone Wars, even at one point fighting alongside Anakin. So there is some actual other Star Wars media that confirms she did more than just
in October 2005. So long after the game.
Yeah. There's also the Star Wars Insider 87 and a complete Star Wars Encyclopedia mentioning her, so at least she has more to do than just the Episode 3 game, so which is good. So
it wouldn't surprise me if most of the info we have on her from this fucking Prima guide.
Yeah.
Also, funny enough, Sindralig and Sarah have green lightsabers, but then literally all the Jedi types have blue lightsabers.
There's actually some green lightsaber
That's
Padawans in the Jedi Temple.
Yeah, and with the Padawans and the snipers, it's a mix between green and blue. The Zabrak Knights all have blue blades. There is no unnamed Jedi Master class. Surprisingly, the brutes are the most complex enemies you face.
They use greens as well.
Not counting the bosses.
It is definitely interesting. And yeah, Sindralic, pretty damn hard. So yeah, definitely be on your toes for that one. Anything else to mention on Coruscant levels?
There actually is one thing a point of Henson's I would like to counter, is doesn't referencing the Revenge of the Sith novelization. It's confirmed in that following his fall to the dark side, Anakin did become more powerful, and there is a line from Obi-Wan, and it is relevant here because of the Anakin and Sin interaction. The flaw of power is arrogance, and so already Anakin is starting to feel that power creep, so that's why the "I'm no longer the learner" line, I would argue, makes sense, on top of Syndrolic being similar to Yoda, a universal instructor for Jedi trainees.
Yeah, I do think so. That yeah.
Yes, I'm well aware of that. It was just humor.
There's that.
Although I will say this is a weird bit here, Wikipedia, saying that Saraketa was created for the video game, but paragraph, according to early drafts of... Oh, okay, this is still talking about the game, but... In the early drafts of the game, Keto was in a 2-on-1 battle to fight whatever the Sith Lord to use all of his dark side power skilled combatants. So you tell me, would that have been impossible?
Huh.
Well, the 2v1?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I meant to mention that and then almost forgot about it until you said it, Henson. The 2v1 was the original plan because you can even find concept art of said scenario. It's viewable in the game itself. And the 2v1, in terms of capability, it definitely is possible because we had phase 1 of the Invisible Hand fight of Anakin and Obi-Wan against Dooku, which is literally the original vision of Anakin versus Sarah and Sin, only the other way around. It could have been done. I do wonder if they split them up, Sarah and Sin, into separate bosses in the end, because they figured 2 combatants of that level may have been a bit challenging for some players to deal with.
I think it would be, yeah. Because the reason why Obi-Wan is helping you against Dooku is as a means of... it's the first boss fight in the game, so having some help there, and sort of a training wheels of sorts before Dooku knocks out Obi-Wan is definitely a good way to ease the player into getting into the groove in order to be able to later on deal with the boss fight himself. Whereas if they actually had been both Sarah and Syndrol against Anakin, no, that would have been too much. It would have pretty much been, how the hell do you beat this? Like, it would have been insane. It would have been even harder than dealing with Grievous by himself or Mace Windu. Like, it would have been much harder, yeah. It would have, so I assume game balancing was a real reason why it didn't happen. So, yeah, that's why.
And something with Sin, ironically, in the film and the print media, it's more or less established that Anakin wiped the floor with Sin, but here in the game, he's almost equal to Anakin in terms of dueling abilities, with Anakin only gaining the upper hand via a last-second application of Saber Throw right into Sin's stomach.
Yeah, that definitely is something interesting to consider, because yeah, the novelization and other, yeah, they do mention that Anakin did overpower Syndrolic, so yeah, that is something that I didn't consider much until I mentioned it. So yeah, because I actually did think Syndrolic was pretty good, but yeah, now upon realizing, yeah. So there is that. Okay, so now we get into the next batch of levels before we get to the final boss. So this is basically the last level of Utapau, Mustafar, and the last level of the Jedi Temple. So, okay, let's go with the last level of Utapau, where finally Order 66 happens across the galaxy. And now Obi-Wan has to fend off against all of the clones. And this is where Mind Trick can definitely be useful to turn enemies into allies for a while. So, yeah, definitely something. And what do you guys think of the Utapau level?
So, I think this level was a lot more necessary than second Utapau level. Plus, you know, here we get the clone of Blaze Troopers as an enemy unit. They are engineered for the Clone Wars' harshest and most unforgiving conditions. Is Utapau really that harsh and unforgiving?
I mean, not that much, but I guess they were just deployed as a means to also have some sort of heavy.
Well, yeah, that's the reason they exist out of universe.
Yeah,
But
to be-
in universe, I don't really know why they're here. But regardless, cool to have this like armored, dark trooper looking clone.
Apparently, these troops were not only in Utapau, they were also in Renbar, Megiddo, and Coruscant during the Clone Wars. Which is interesting. I bet it's Republic Commando True Colors, the one that says that, because that book does mention these troops. Which, if that's the case, then okay, then I guess they were implemented in more than just Utapau. It's awesome. So, yeah. I'll say this much gameplay-wise. They definitely can be tough, though if you definitely stay on the offensive for a good amount of time, you will be able to beat them. And yes, this is Obi-Wan, so that means the offensive will be a bit traumatic, but you can be able to do it. The ones that I think are the worst enemies in this level is the fucking ATRTs. Yeah. So, Luke, do you want to talk about the ATRTs, or you want to let me do it?
I mean, I did kind of have my experience moan, so you can take the floor with the ATRTs if you want.
Okay. Why are the ATRTs worse? Because those guys, to put it simply, if you get two of them, not only their blasts are hard to block, meaning that you can't really block all of them, but also when you use your lightsaber attacks, they can sometimes not flinch with the attacks, and they could actually ram over you. You have to literally be wailing on them very hard, to do it. Oh, and also, Mind Trick does not work on them, and R1 doesn't work on. So basically, Force powers are kind of useless against them, except for lightsaber throw. So you literally have to go full-on lightsaber, and it can be a lot more damage. At least the heavy troopers, you can at least Mind Trick them, and even be able to do Force Grip. But the ATRTs, no, those are much harder to kill, and they definitely are fucking annoying. So yeah, those will be a problem. There is one thing I forgot to mention. I usually play the campaign on normal, but this time, to prepare for this video, I actually played on hard. And not much change other than you definitely receive more damage from the enemies. So it is harder, but because I already had fully upgraded Anakin and Obi-Wan, I managed to endure. So it wasn't much of an issue. So it didn't change much, but definitely a bit harder. So yeah. So with that said, yeah, ATRGs can suck it. They literally are the fucking worst clone trooper enemy to deal with. So yeah, they're the worst, and this is also the level in which we get Obi-Wan versus the Lat gunship. And in here, you have to pretty much throw the canisters there and use a lightsaber throw against the freaking gunship. Otherwise, you won't be able to beat it. Because, yeah, that Lat gunship is going to wail at you hard. So, yeah, beat the shit out of it.
Also, throwing this out there, we also have the Clone Heavy Gunner, and not really anything to say about them.
Yeah.
There is a interesting point about the standard clone trooper. This is funny for those of us who know the EU. Trained in various weapons and combat skills, the clone troopers never question their role, think outside of their pre-programmed parameters, making them an invaluable resources.
Huh.
Gee, that sure is weird.
Lol. Wow.
Commander Cody even gets his own little section here. So, yeah, of course we have one more clone enemy type, but we won't see them until a bit later.
Yeah.
So yeah, although I will say, having Obi-Wan, like in the movie, he sneaks around and gets off planet, but here though, he's just like killing a ton of fucking clones. And it's like, man, who knew? Had Obi-Wan just been allowed to do his thing, he could have probably like killed the entire clone army.
I mean,
I know obviously not. It's a joke, but still, like the fact that he's able to like go through all these clones like this.
It goes to show how much gameplay really is the driving force of this story sometimes, or at least in cutscenes.
I don't believe for a second that had this happened in the movie, he would have been able to get off the planet,
Yeah.
like, unseen.
Yeah.
No way in hell.
Yeah, no way. That's why he stole Grievous' ship as well. so he could have been able to easily get out. But yeah, look, what were you gonna say?
I also hear irony that comes through in certain levels. It starts with Mace during the boss fight with him, where he will say to Anakin sometimes, "Stop fighting, I am not your enemy," while he's beating the shit out of you. And then in this level, you've got Obi-Wan saying to his clone troops, "Stand down, that's an order." Meanwhile, in gameplay, you're just casually killing every trooper you come across.
You know, it certainly is interesting, well, especially when we get to the next Jedi Temple level, Obi-Wan and eventually Yoda slicing up all of these clones and not sad or depressed that they're killing their former friends. It's almost as if they were never friends with the clones or something.
In the movie, we do see a very small hint of it when they're killing the clones in the Jedi Temple, but a very small hint of it. But in the game, yeah, no, we don't. We don't see it at all.
Well, I mean, like, we even have that deleted scene where the clones, for whatever fucking reason, think they can trick Obi-Wan and Yoda into
Thinking they're Jedi,
And-
yeah.
Obi-Wan jokingly says, "You clones make terrible Jedi." You know, which is like almost like completely ignoring just like the devastating genocide that just took place here, but I digress.
There's it. So, yeah.
Although, honestly, I will say, I do think I feel like we could have had a boss fight with Cody. I'm surprised we didn't do that.
I'm gonna
I was
assume it's
rich.
because he was never meant to die.
Well, yes, but since this game isn't exactly following the movie beat for beat, I'm surprised they didn't just go with that already.
It kinda is, at least when it comes to the main plot points and the main characters' fates. So at least it's keeping up with that.
Because of how many years for which I played this game, it's only now discussing it, and it was basically right before Henson actually made that point that I realised how grand of a missed opportunity from a gameplay perspective some sort of confrontation with Cody would have been, because they even use him in the film crawl style briefing for this particular level, which ironically is called Attack of the Clones, and it's level 13 in the game. So very clever use of one of the film's titles, and this particular level just so happens to be what's commonly believed to be the unlucky number. And they have that profile shot of Cody in the intro crawl for that level in the mission select screen, and yeah, you never actually fight him. Should Obi-Wan have killed Cody if that were to have been developed? No, obviously not. But yeah, there is a missed opportunity there. And it would have made for a change of pace, because all the boss fights we have in this game are lightsaber duels, which are admittedly awesome, crab droid boss fights, which are probably the most annoying ones to deal with, and then the ship fights.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, Cody is the only named clone we have in the movies, and we see that he's Obi-Wan's. They do interact a bit in the movie. So I feel like making Cody a boss fight just makes sense. I mean, hell, even Lego Star Wars, he's not a boss fight, but he is the second character during the Grievous boss fight, so those two get something to do together. I just feel like you could have done something.
Maybe I could have. But yeah. I mean, I guess they could have put some sort of a clone boss battle. Not necessarily Cody. Could have been some other, like, I don't know, maybe some Republic Commando squad or something. I don't know.
I mean,
so
Cody would have been the only clone boss fight that would have made sense, at least for Obi-Wan.
Oh, I know. I just mean whatever to put as the biggest challenge for clones, which we'll get to in the next level from Obi-Wan. There is one that they did introduce. So yeah. This level definitely is, I wouldn't say hard as balls, but definitely on the game definitely starting to get much harder once you get past the first Utapau level. So it's definitely getting harder and harder. So, and especially if you put it in the hard difficulty. So in that time, you definitely have to be more on your toes, more upgrading your stuff to be able to beat it. So yeah, but this level I wouldn't say is one of the worst ones. So yeah. Okay, last thing to say on the Otapao level, guys? Or shall we move on to Mustafar now?
We can move on.
Okay. Mustafar. This is the one you want to talk about, Henson. So, Mustafar. Anakin killing the Separatists. Okay. I guess I'll let you take the floor on this one, Henson, in regards to the story.
Yeah, so first off, we get introduced to some enemy types here. So we got Nemoidian Guard, Brute Guard, and Sniper. So, you know, that's cool. Those Brute Guards are annoying as fuck. But regardless, story-wise here, you know, this is one of those things where I definitely prefer the fucking movie. None of the Separatist leaders knowing what's about to happen, but no. And Anakin or Vader at this point, is just able to walk in, him slaughtering them all. Having them know Sidious has betrayed them, I think takes away from the moment. But gameplay-wise, you know, you gotta do something. I will say this, though. I do love the bit here, where the leaders, they run into the room, and Anakin just, like, is able to kill them one by one with no... That's a great bit of a gameplay right there. And having Newt Gunray be the boss of this, I'm glad the movie didn't do it, but gameplay-wise here, because Gunray was basically the main villain, or one of the big villains of Phantom Menace. The whole blockade of Naboo was what kickstarted the entire saga to begin with. So having Anakin deal with him in this boss fight and having it be its own dedicated boss fight, I think is thematically appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
Although thematically, I think Anakin just like killing him as he's like begging for mercy is far more appropriate for that. But I think this was a good route to go.
Yeah, definitely. Luke, what do you gotta say on this one?
A fair amount. In terms of the visuals for this game, because we've not touched on the graphics too much, whilst the character models are certainly of their time, I think the environments have held up rather well. And I was surprised at, especially by the standard, I was surprised at how good Mustafar still looks, like the way they captured the sky and the lava flows, and things like that. And I love the fact that this level gives us a very different journey through the Mustafar mining complex than what we got in the film. You know, we're seeing an entirely different route of it to get to the main control room, and of course some of that is no doubt artistic license, but it's great anyway.
You'll be surprised to know that in terms of the visuals of the console version, the Xbox version actually looks better than the PS2 version. It has updated models, and the visuals actually do look a lot cleaner and better. You can even see it in the in-game cutscenes where they actually look more refined, more detailed. So actually, the visuals hold up better if you play the OG Xbox version than the PS2 version. And especially if you use component cables to put it at 480p, or just play backwards compatible on the Xbox Series X. So yeah, there is that to mention about the graphics of the console version. So just mentioning that.
And in terms of the enemy types, the Nemoidian Guards, that's basically the infantry for this particular level, whilst they're not particularly difficult on their own, that stun baton they use is annoying as shit. Because even though it's a really basic attack, they can easily stun lock you with that basic 3-hit combo that they do. And if you're facing a group of them, which you do on a few occasions throughout the level, make sure you're a master of the basic strafing. That's all I'm going to say. Something that hasn't been touched upon when talking about the basic gameplay are the obstacles that you face, which are very basic to deal with, to be fair. Throughout the game there is a lot of door and wall panel cutting to either progress to the next section or disable a fuse that will get you to the next section, along with turret manning in certain levels, and there's a fair amount of that. But going back to the enemy types, the Nemoidian snipers are annoying in the same way that every other sniper is. If they get you, they can be a bit annoying. The Nemoidian brutes, yeah, when I was talking about maximum experience, those are the sorts of enemies that you unfortunately have to engage in those slugging matches with if the maximum experience really matters to you. And whatever the equivalents would be in previous levels, the same is kind of true for them. With the Nemoidian brutes, the trick is it's kind of like Grievous in terms of the general method, where the idea is to counter by attacking it in the openings. Do not try and take them on head on, because they will crush you. The rest of the enemies, though, are your typical CIS fodder with the various battle droid varieties. And something that I meant to mention when we discussed Anakin vs. Mace and the Jedi Temple missions, and haven't, is that, for those who aren't aware, when you play this game on a new save file, both Anakin and Obi-Wan start with an ability in their Force tree called Force Stun, but when Anakin, I get it just after killing Mace, once you've defeated Mace, Anakin's Force Stun actually transitions into Force Lightning, and Anakin's profile image in the upgrade screen even changes to have his robe on and the hood up to reflect that, and the Force Lightning is really fun to use.
Oh, yes. Any game that lets you have Force Lightning is fun to use.
But it's especially fun to use when you have it maxed out and it chains through enemies.
In this game, I don't know if... I mean, I guess it kind of happens, but not nearly as amazingly as the Force Unleashed does it, where that one definitely changed to multiple enemies fully upgraded. Or even the Force Lightning in both of the Jedi Knight games on the Quake 3 engine. So, not as cool as those, but it is still a pretty cool feature, especially to dealing extra damage to those specific enemies that you just want to pretty much chip away the health, dying, especially the bosses. It works against those. So,
but it's also a great bypass for enemy defenses, such as the destroyer droid's shields.
Mind Trick can do the same, but yeah, Force Lightning also does it too. That begs the question. I've actually been curious about this. Could Force Lightning actually penetrate a droideka's shields?
We never see it happen in lore. I don't think that's ever been depicted in a canon source.
Yeah, I don't think so either. That's why I'm curious. But I mean, that would be an interesting thing to mention.
I'll get back to the Force Lightning in a moment from a gameplay perspective, but we get a couple of glimpses of it during The Hunt Begins, which is the first Jedi Temple mission. But here, as we make our way through the Mustafar mining complex on mission 14, we get quite a few shots of Anakin looking extremely evil, and I think there are probably 4 or 5 cinematics where we see close-ups of Anakin's face and him looking to make no Sith eyes, but you can see quite obviously how much darker his personality is becoming, and it's for a mid-2000s game, those expressions, whilst I'm sure they could look better by today's standards, those expressions are convincing,
Yeah.
And then in terms of actually, you make your way up to the control room, you slaughter some more guards and brutes. The moment just before killing the Separatist leaders, where Anakin forces down the door to where the council table in the complex is, and then Gunray runs away, and Runhako says, "He's locked it! We're trapped!" Even though he's the final boss, technically, Gunray, they still managed to make him a coward.
Lol.
And just before facing Gunray, you have that moment where Runhako, I think his name is, is asking Anakin for mercy, and Anakin questions this, and Rune Hako says, "Yes, you will not kill me. It's not allowed for a Jedi Knight." And Anakin says, "There is much you fail to understand," and just kills Rune Hako without a second thought. But then you get to the fight with Gunray, well, via proxy, as he is piloting Separatist ship, and there are two lines. He doesn't say them both. It literally depends on the game's coding each time you play the level. But there are two lines that will alternate in the intro to this. Anakin will either say, "You can't escape me," or "I'll destroy your ship."
Yeah.
And both of them are delivered in a very consciously evil manner. And actually in this, you sometimes get it with the Jedi Temple missions, but here in the Mustafar level, there are quite a few very consciously evil things that he says with that, conscious edge, just to kind of drive the point home. But with the actual fight, taking down the shuttle Gunray is in, you've got a fair few Neimoidian guards that you have to kill, kind of like the burst of support clones that you have to deal with as Obi-Wan with the LAAT. But once the guards are all taken care of, you've got canisters that you can throw, you've got the lightsaber throw, and you can actually, especially if you've got enough secrets for a long enough force bar, you can actually stun that shuttle with Force Lightning, so long as you've got enough energy to conjure it, which is something I did not know until my most recent playthrough.
Yeah, you definitely can do that. The lightsaber throw can definitely do a bit more damage for less usage of the force bar. So, but yeah, you can use a force bar, yeah.
And one thing that actually is quite interesting, I think, to speculate about is the exact cause of death once the battle against that shuttle is over. And for those who have not played the game, once you have defeated Newt Gunray in his, or via his shuttle, he basically loses control of it, and then it falls into the lava. And playing through the game specifically for this, it really made me wonder, what is the exact cause of death in that scenario? Did the final hit against the shuttle kill Gunray, which is why the shuttle lost control, and then the shuttle fell into the lava? Or did the final hit destabilize the shuttle, and was Newt Gunray still alive when the ship fell into the lava?
He was, because you can hear him actually say, I believe it was no or something when the ship was going down. Yeah, so it's the latter. The last lightsaber throw just pretty much wreck it.
And then Anakin just turns away from the scene like nothing happened. Very different to Gunray's death in the movie.
Well, I mean, yeah. So yeah, overall, I think this level was a pretty good one, pretty interesting one, and definitely a fun one. Yeah. As for the last Jedi Temple level, well, this is Obi-Wan and Yoda against all the clones trying to get into the temple beacon room to pretty much, like in the movie, just turn off the signal that says, "Oh, all Jedi return to the temple." So yeah, and in here we pretty much fight the same types of clones as we did in the Utapau on the last Utapau level, but with the added extra that Yoda now sometimes helps us, which is pretty cool. And I definitely like the interaction between Obi-Wan and Yoda here. Some of the banter they do and stuff, it is pretty cool. And we also get to pretty much see the last clone type that was missing to be introduced. And I'm sure Henson was dying to talk about this one. So go ahead, Henson.
So, here we have the enemy type that I am honestly fucking shocked we never really got to see more of after this game. The Clone Assassin. So, reading from the Prima Guide. The Clone Assassins are of the same genetic family as Dark Troopers and are considered some of the most deadly in the entire Republic. Allowed more mental freedom than the average clone trooper and being closer to the progenitor. The Clone Assassins are designed to performing special infiltration and assassination operations. Training close quarters hand-to-hand combat, the clone assassins are famed for their stealth and precision. See one coming, it's already too late. Oh, I'm sure Luke knows what that's about. Clone assassins are extremely tough enemies. With their speed, they can dodge attacks so quickly that blur. Through intense training in the arts of Terakasi, the clone assassin's senses have become tuned so accurately that they are known to even dodge the force power. Armed with 2 vibro blades that sweep out into position from an arm sheath, their attacks are equally fast. The best way to defeat these enemies that usually come at you in groups is by fast slash combos which focus on speed rather than power and force power area attack. Force push can also work well, pushing groups of clone assassins back, causing some damage in the process. Like, these are definitely the enemy type where these would have been useful in a lot of fucking places.
I'm gonna assume the main reason why these ones were not used that much is kind of a similar reason as to why we don't see too many Republic Commandos or ARC Troopers, because it probably would take a lot more time, refining, money, and effort to actually be able to make them versus the standard clone troopers. So I'm gonna assume that is probably the case. Not enough budget and finances. Plus, apparently this was commissioned by Palpatine himself, like a special order during the Clone Wars. So I take it he probably just wanted some clones that were super experts at killing Jedi, like some very specific ones. So yeah, that's probably why we didn't see most of them lore-wise, because would have been expensive, would have been pretty much problematic to have them. I mean, canonically, the clone army was like what, only 300,000 units, and then a million more was coming later on in the war. Whereas the CIS had like what, 2 to 3 million droids, I believe, or more. So definitely not enough units. So and if you put a lot more money to creating the clone assassins, well, good luck in having any sort of army. So I'm gonna assume it's budgetary reasons why, and time as well.
I like to see them more often than just this one game.
Oh, I agree with you. It would have been cool to see more sources. I agree.
It's not about being cool. It's that these guys are so fucking useful.
Oh, I know.
In what they are, that it just would make sense to have them show up in other places.
It definitely would have been great to see them during in other sources depicting Order 66. Even the Purge comics would have probably done that. So I guess that definitely missed potential in having them in the Dark Times era. That definitely would have been the perfect time to have them have them show up more than the Episode 3 games. So yeah, I do agree with that. Definitely missed potential in that. But in regards to why we didn't see them prior to Clone Wars, I pretty much gonna say it's budgetary reasons. So yeah, but definitely would have been cool seeing them in the Dark Times era. So yeah.
That aside, it is cool to have Obi-Wan and Yoda, or seeing more of them going through the temple. Not much to really say there.
Yeah. Luke, do you have something to say in the Jedi Temple level?
Yeah, so this level actually skips over the intro to the ruined Jedi Temple that we get in the film with Obi-Wan and Yoda killing the clones just outside the temple, which in the movie we see pretty much the tail end of anyway, and it just goes straight to navigating the ruined temple from the inside, and it's very interesting to see the damage that was done during Operation Nightfall that wasn't depicted in the Jedi Temple levels, because you have to remember, well, for those who have never played the game before, the Jedi Temple missions start immediately in the library, and the library is on the 2nd floor of the temple,
I believe.
So there was obviously a fair amount of battle and damage that had been done, which was skipped over to start level 11 there. So to see the damage that preceded that is very interesting. There are also a few instances in this level, and a lot of the levels in this game have this, of forced jumping for scripted platforming, which there's quite a lot of that throughout this game, but it's fun to do anyway. And as Henson pointed out, we see Obi-Wan's shift in attitude towards the clones around this time, saying that the Jedi should have never trusted them, which I don't think he says, or certainly not as a scripted line in level 13, so to hear him say it here is very interesting. And when we get to the temple library, we actually see a lot more scripted damage done to that when Obi-Wan and Yoda are looking at the damage within the library, and Obi-Wan is very disheartened when he finds Jocasta Nu dead. And we even see Yoda struggling to see the state of everything that the Order had been reduced to.
Yeah, it definitely was. Just showed just how brutal the clones and Anakin were at pretty much destroying the Jedi Temple.
And it takes... Because Obi-Wan initially thinks it's entirely the clones, as in he thinks that they were solely responsible for the extent of the damage, and Yoda is the one who, just by sense, is able to determine that the clones are not responsible for the extent of the damage. Obviously they killed a lot of Jedi, but the damage to the temple was one step further, and he says, "An act of hatred this was. Strong is the dark side now." And, you're fighting through the temple, having to kill the clones of all the established varieties. We have the last turret section, which admittedly wasn't touched on very much, but there are a few turret sections where you have to destroy either enemy ships or environmental obstacles. In this case, it was taking down 2 LAAT gunships, and then we go straight to the beacon room, which is where the clone assassins come in. Again, for those who have not played the game before, they were teased at the end of level 11. When you finish that and you get the cutscene of Anakin planting the beacon, and a standard clone at the end of that level alerts him of Syndrolic's presence, and he says, "I'll deal with him. You stay and protect the beacon," referring to the clone assassins. "Guard it with your lives." And these guys do not screw around. If you think the Magna Guards are bad when it comes to avoiding damage, and they are, these guys are that on 20 times the amount of steroids. Like, I honestly can't even give you an honest ratio as to how many hits actually land against them, because they've got Syndrolic level 4, and actually their evasions are even faster than his. So it's literally blue moon hit after blue moon hit that you are able to land against them until they eventually go down. And remind me, General, is it 2 groups of clone assassins you face at the end of this level, or just the one?
It's 2. You start going against, if I recall, it was 2 to 3. Then another 4 show up. So it's 2 groups. Total is like 7 to 8.
Oh, and something you get reminded of a lot with the assassins is, "I'm going to eviscerate you." Which, yeah, they actually can.
Those assassins are definitely one of the harder clone types to deal with, and what makes them especially deadly in this game is the fact that mind tricks completely useless against them, and they can dodge a lot of your attacks. Even with the masterful skill level, they will still dodge your attacks. Yes, I'm not kidding. Even when having fully masterful, they still will dodge your shit. Meaning that you literally can't go full offensive wailing on them. You actually have to go on the defensive and wait until they have attacked for you to do so. So, yeah, going at them full wailing by using the mind tricks or having masterful skill level is not gonna do you any good. So, yeah, in this one, you're really gonna have to dodge and then attack. So, yeah, because these guys are no joke. Anyway, anything else to say on the Jedi Temple level?
No.
Okay, now, Duel of Fates, the big boss lightsaber duel, whatever you want to call it. of not just the game, but the entire episode 3 journey. Anakin versus Obi-Wan. Oh yeah. Split into 2 parts for this video game, because first we start with controlling Obi-Wan on this one. So yeah, what do you guys gotta say on this one? Obi-Wan versus Anakin.
So, what I find really interesting here is just the amount of extra and added dialogue there is to this encounter. Now, because so much of the film's plot was cut out for this game, there is so much you're missing going into it. Like the fact that Padme is just not a fucking... she doesn't exist in this game. So Anakin's entire motivation for returning to the dark side doesn't exist. But Obi-Wan's dialogue here honestly makes me wish we got to see it in the film, where throughout the entire... I do like in the film him fully accepting the fact that Anakin is... Although I will say, having now gone through this boss fight, I wish we had gotten trying to convince Anakin to stop the bullshit. At least one line of dialogue. Because, man, you can just feel him trying to convince Anakin to, come back to the light, but Anakin is just not having it.
My guess would be because Padme's not in a console game. That's why you don't see Obi-Wan. You see in the game Obi-Wan trying to redeem him, but in the movie you just too late, because if Padme couldn't redeem him, then how can Obi-Wan? So I guess in the movie it makes sense why Obi-Wan doesn't really try, because if Padme couldn't do it, how the hell can I do it? So in there it makes sense. In the game, I guess it makes sense that Obi-Wan is trying, because Padme is literally nowhere to be seen. Aside from the snippet in the movie where you see her corpse there, and the very small snippets of info you get in the briefings of the levels, but that's about it. So
I mean, I'm referring to the scene in Return of the Jedi where Vader says,
Obi-Wan once thought as you do.
Now, the implication is that Obi-Wan did think he could turn Anakin. But with the Revenge of the Sith we got, that is not the case. Although, you can read that scene as Vader just trying to convince himself that, that was already tried once, too late for me. Regardless, I like a lot of the dialogue get here.
Yeah.
Like, freeze, the dark side is not the way, come to your senses, Anakin, please come back to the light, face up, done, I can help. It's too late for that, you're too late, you only want to help your... You know that's not true, lay down your sword, let me help you. So much. You think you have a choice? You can't imagine how powerful I've become. This is where it ends, my old friend. Did the prophecy lie? You'll never beat me. I'll bet you didn't see that coming. Don't force me to kill you. Your overconfidence will be your downfall. Just, great stuff here. And then, of course, get to the end. We don't have Obi-Wan's Chosen One or sequel.
yeah, no.
And then the game basically just skips over a bunch of shit.
We do at least have the high ground.
Skips over a bunch of shit, basically ends. And then, you also have the Infinity's alternate ending.
Oh, yeah.
Where, how did Sidious not see that coming?
Oh, that Anakin was going to stab him?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I guess that's why the ending was never canon to begin with.
Regardless. So, yeah, the Battle of the Heroes here, the fact that the song isn't here just throws me off, but the whole sequence here, I really like the added, but, the missing element and monologue at the end takes away from the whole thing for me, but still, though, great overall, and the alternate ending is cool, although, had this game been released just a few years later, degeneration, or maybe they could have done this in the game, but it would have been cool to get some levels based on this alternate timeline, like what The Force Unleashed did. Because, yeah, I know this was just the style of the time, common thing to have, a good ending and bad ending, choices, wasn't a choicest game. But I would have loved to have seen a follow-through on this, or maybe just do, like, something with it.
I guess.
But, regardless...
I guess. So yeah. Anyway, look, I know you have plenty to say on this two lightsaber duels, so go ahead.
From an adaptation perspective, from a logistics/lore perspective, from an emotional perspective, oh god, there is a lot to cover here. But just before getting into the fight itself, and I think it's relevant to do this, given that it's the Mustafar duel we're talking about, do you mind me getting a little bit into just referencing the general lore again quickly? Because one of the key points that Revenge of the Sith itself drives home is that Anakin and Obi-Wan are pretty much equals in terms of refined dueling technique, but it's also clearly established, particularly in the Revenge of the Sith novelization, that Anakin is the stronger of the two just by the way of natural aptitude, and as the prophesized chosen one. And something that I've only realised with finally doing a playthrough of the game where I got all of the health and force surge upgrades, and I know this comes from the fact that Anakin gets more levels than Obi-Wan, but it is worth noting. I'm not sure if the health and force upgrades were laid out this way on purpose, but if you fully upgrade Anakin and Obi-Wan's health and force bars, Anakin's health and force bars will be dead equal when you get all of his secrets, but with Obi-Wan's, I think his health is slightly longer than his force, even if you get all of the secrets. So, I don't know if this is intentional or not, but regardless, the game very cleverly sort of ties in with that, with that being an indication of Anakin's greater strength on the back of aptitude. And the dialogue, as Henson pointed out, there's a lot of extra dialogue here, and he mentioned how there's kind of a conflict to a certain extent with the whole Obi-Wan once thought as you do, but then in the Revenge of the Sith that we know, and in our case we love, that Obi-Wan doesn't try to redeem Anakin in the film, whereas here he does.
Well, I mean, it's not even about trying to redeem him, it's like thinking that there is still light in him, regardless.
Well, something that is very interesting here to me is how the way Obi-Wan acts for, I would say, the first half of this fight, and this is the longest boss fight of the entire game, 6 stages, unlike all of the others, which are 3 to 4 stages, and it's a mostly faithful adaptation of the Mustafar duel, with the only exception being that the 4th phase, which in the film is that brief exchange on the mast at the end of the Mustafar balcony, that's substituted for the lower level of the Mustafar mining complex that we see in Battlefront 2, funnily enough, the original. But this portrayal of Obi-Wan throughout the Mustafar duel is actually a lot more in line with Obi-Wan as of the discussion with Yoda in the Jedi Temple, when he says, "Send me to kill the Emperor. I will not kill Anakin. He is like my brother. I cannot do it." And in the game, as I say, for the first half of the fight, we see that with Obi-Wan pleading in-game and during the cutscenes to try and reason with Anakin, and it's if you think about it, Obi-Wan is basically going through the stages of grief in real time as he's fighting Anakin. Like, the first 2 or 3 phases are basically the shock. The 4th phase, I would say, is kind of bargaining and anger, and then the 5th and 6th stages are basically the acceptance, because he's pleading with Anakin a lot throughout the first half, but then come the 4th phase, that's where he becomes a lot more damning of Anakin's decisions, such as saying, "Anakin Skywalker is no more. You killed him. Is this the legacy you choose to leave? Or did the prophecy lie?" And once you get to the 5th phase, which is the Mustafar control arm, that's where all of the unique dialogue ends, and it's just the usual versus banter between Anakin and Obi-Wan. So that's kind of an indication of the man I raised can't be reasoned with anymore. The only option is to destroy him.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's a lot to go over. And funnily enough, even though Padme has absolutely no role in the game at all, Anakin actually does mention her. Well, sometimes you get the line, sometimes you don't. But in the control room phase, that's where sometimes you will hear Anakin say to Obi-Wan, "You turned Padme against me," which is ironic.
Lol, I actually forgot about that one. But yeah, I guess there's that. So, yeah. Oh, and what do you think of the alternate ending?
Oh, God, well, when I first saw that and realised that the 17th level was just the Mustafar duel again, this is from the perspective of a first-time player, I honestly thought, oh, they're just being nice enough to give us the option to play as Anakin. I had no idea that, until seeing it, that they had gone to the effort of making an alternate ending, and I remember seeing that, because of course we all know what happens. "It's over, Anakin. I have the high ground. You underestimate my power. Don't try it." And of course, in level 16, it plays out the canon way with Obi-Wan dismembering Anakin. But then when I saw the alternate ending for the first time, Anakin successfully flipping over Obi-Wan and stabbing him in the back, was like, what the... Whoa! Young me was incredibly shocked by that. And then he just casually kicks Obi-Wan's body off the top of the cliff and just leaves it to roll down to the shore, looking at him with disgust. And then Palpatine presenting Anakin with his red saber and killing him, Anakin killing Palpatine and proclaiming to those clones, who oddly enough were 2/12th clones rather than 501st clones, "No, galaxy belongs to me." It's like, I wasn't losing my mind at that when I saw that for the first time when I was very young, but I just had no idea what to think, because I would have never expected that. And it's, from a lore perspective, even though it's not canon, it basically shows you that Anakin beating Obi-Wan in and of itself was a plausible outcome, and that the difference was their tactical sensibilities, which is why in canon Obi-Wan ultimately won. But the alternate ending does indicate Anakin's greater aptitude as the Chosen One, which is particularly interesting because in the two endings he does the exact same jump from the platform to the high ground. There's no difference in Anakin's approach to that situation. So I guess the alternate ending is saying, had Anakin been just that little bit luckier in pulling off that jump, then the Mustafar duel would have gone the other way, I guess.
That is interesting to think about, yeah. I'll say how I reacted when I first saw it. I actually, because I had played the handheld version first, both campaigns, before the console version, I actually thought it was exactly gonna play out like the level 16, pretty much the same as the movie, just playing as Anakin. Like, I generally thought the same. But when I saw the alternate ending, I was like, oh wait, this one actually has something different? hey, but in the handheld it wasn't that. It actually was. Anakin still lost. What the hell? Like, I definitely was like wondering what the hell. It was only till later that I realized, okay, this is different. That's not how it went in the movie. So, not taking it as... part of me was not taking it as canon, because it wasn't canon. But, well, actually, I didn't even know the canon hierarchy back then. So, it was more just me just saying, okay, the movie and other depictions say Obi-Wan won, so I'm going with that. But it was pretty interesting how little me was like just definitely surprising that alternate ending, I'll say that much. So yeah, it's kind of similar to how I reacted to the non-canon levels of the Force Unleashed 1 DLC, where I saw Starkiller as the Sith assassin turning Luke into the dark side. Like I was very surprised, and I thought, how the hell the movie's gonna go now? But then of course I later snapped and realized, oh wait, it's just DLC. It's kind of like that type of scenario that I was in. Pretty interesting to think about, if you ask me. I'll say that much. But yeah, I did really like that alternate ending. The fight itself, pretty difficult if you don't know what you're doing, because Anakin and Obi-Wan definitely are hard to beat. You definitely need all of your expertise on fighting duelists, and also having all the skill points used and all the secrets and stuff. So yeah, definitely you need to be on your toes for this. And even though we don't have Battle of the Heroes because the soundtrack was not ready, unfortunately, at least we still had Duel of the Fates, which is good enough for me, because that was even in the movie. So I'm glad that at least we did get Duel of Fates. So yeah.
And something that's really interesting about the Mustafar duel from a gameplay perspective, I mean, well, first off, it's almost as much of a marathon fight as it is in the movie, so top notch there. Secondly, rather than depicting the two as dead even, as we see in the film, it actually really drives home Anakin being the aggressor and Obi-Wan being on the back foot for the majority of the fight. Like, if you thought that was the case in the movie, well, if you've not played the game before, play it and experience it for yourself.
In the movie, we do see snippets of Anakin being the more aggressor one of the two. We do see snippets, but in the game, it's even more noticeable. Yeah.
And it's the closest you get to a match without actually facing the alternate versions of them in the versus mode, because Anakin and Obi-Wan are not only the protagonists of the film, but the two Jedi you've spent the entire story playing as. So it tests your knowledge of both the respective player character and the respective opponent in a way that none of the others do, that none of the other bosses do, because regardless of which version of the mission you play, it's one player character against the other, essentially.
Yeah.
Though sadly you cannot play either version of the Mustafar duel via co-op.
I mean, obvious reasons, but yeah. Indeed. Yeah. This fight was pretty cool in the console version. Definitely an episode 3 fans' dream come true of actually living the fight. Far better than the Battlefront 2 game, even though in there you can kind of live it. So, yeah, definitely pretty damn cool. So, yeah. Any final things to say on the Mustafar duel?
No.
Okay, well, in that case, let's go to, well, any other extras we can talk about the episode 3 console game. So, like bonus content, its multiplayer mode, even the U connections, and also what we want to see in the remaster if it does indeed happen. So, okay, let's go with the bonus content. So, Luke, since you are the expert in everything of episode 3 console version, take it away. This is your chance to tell us all about it.
Okay, so there is quite the litany of bonus content for a game of this era. You've got the main story campaign, obviously, which is the 17 levels that we've just gone over, but then you've got bonus missions which are accessible via the single player section of the main menu, and you unlock the bonus missions by just completing the campaign. There are 5 of them in total. The General's Protectors, which has you playing as the Magna Guards, Grievous on the Run, which is an alternate take on Grievous fighting Obi-Wan, as well as Republic and Separatist forces, which is a interesting scenario. The Mustafar Lava Challenge, which has you playing as Anakin navigating Mustafar's platforms very, very carefully, might I add, because it's actually the one level in the game where you can die from falling off, and Size Matters Not, which has you playing Yoda as you play through his perspective of the separation between him and Obi-Wan during the 15th story mission with the revisiting of the Jedi Temple, and the final bonus mission is actually the very first lightsaber duel we ever saw, Darth Vader versus old Ben Kenobi in A New Hope.
Damn.
Now, so yeah, there's more there's more extra content, but General, have you anything to say about the bonus missions?
Well, I mean, the bonus missions, I played them, and they were fine at the distractions and everything. Out of those missions, I believe the only one that's canon is the last one, Obi-Wan versus Darth Vader, and I guess maybe Yoda fighting the clones. I guess it'll be that. I don't know if they're canon, these bonus missions. Are they actually canon? I think they're just extras, but I don't know if you guys know that they're canon or not.
The crawl briefing for Yoda's mission contextualizes it as being him separated from Obi-Wan in the Jedi Temple. So that could be valid to at least the game's main story, if not a canon event in the actual film. The Mustafar Lava Challenge is contextualized as being Anakin hunting down the Separatist leaders. So maybe that was a section on level 14 that ended up being cut. Maybe, although obviously if it was, it would have been initially without the falling down to the lava trap. As for the other 3 missions, missions 1 and 2 are not canon, I don't think.
Okay, fair enough. What about Darth Vader versus Kenobi?
Well, that's just a recreation of the Death Star duel, so like there is no liberty taken there, I don't think.
And then, of course, had this game been released now, all that would have been paid DLC.
Ugh. Or worse. Or worse, it would have been given in a battle pass.
Oh dear.
But yes, I do like these, letting us play as characters that weren't playable in the campaign. It's like, God, I wish we had more games with this combat system. Like, imagine getting a game where we could have played as this Grievous. Oh,
that would have been something.
Like a General Grievous game that tied in with like the 2005 comic miniseries.
I mean, I'm not even talking about like a General Grievous game specifically, but just a game where he was playable more often than just a single level.
Yeah.
The other missions that you unlock by playing the campaign, and the game is actually nice enough to let you play these missions as single player with AI, unlike games today, is a series of 4 co-op missions. 3 of them have you play Anakin and Obi-Wan, 2 on the Invisible Hand, 1 on Utapau, and then the last one is Seraketo and Syndrolic, which is them contextualized as defending the Jedi Temple.
That is definitely pretty cool bonus content, yeah. I do really like those, and it definitely makes us wish we would have had an actual co-op campaign instead of just bonus levels, but I digress on that. So, yeah. Look, shall we talk about my favorite extra of this game? Do you know which one it is?
Well, I was kind of holding off on that one to talk last anyway, and I think we're thinking along the exact same line here. So, do you want to introduce it, or shall I?
I'm talking, of course, of the versus mode. Oh yeah. Talk about one of the only times that we have a proper Star Wars fighting game of sorts, where it takes all the hack and slash beat 'em up attacks and boss battles that you have in the campaign and just makes them into one-on-one versus mode, which is awesome, and it is pretty damn fun. Yeah, there are one or two characters that could be on the OP. Looking at you, Grievous, and certain others. But I mean, it is still pretty fun, and you can even do like matches against your friends and stuff. It's just awesome to pretty much duke it out. It's great, and you can even do all sorts of scenarios. You can have Anakin versus Obi-Wan in Mustafar, or you could change it up, and you could have maybe you could even have Anakin versus Darth Vader in the Death Star, or Mace Windu fighting Dooku in the Invisible Hand, or Grievous fighting Syndraulic, or fighting Mace Windu, and you're getting unique dialogue with each one, which just makes the fights feel even more even more believable that it could happen with that extra unique dialogue. It's just awesome. Like, for example, how Anakin, when he fights Darth Vader, he's like, "You're not my fate." Saying that he does not want to become Darth Vader like that, even though he is evil. Ironic. So, yeah, I like the versus mode is definitely really cool. It's definitely my favorite part of that game. It really is so damn cool, and it is a shame that we never had a full game actually have it. It is a shame, but yeah. Okay, I talked enough myself about the versus mode, but you can go ahead and talk about it.
9 characters, all very well developed in terms of having their own movesets. In my opinion, the versus roster is incredibly small when you think about the number of Force wielders who are incredibly key to the events of Revenge of the Sith, who we may have been able to get in this if it weren't for the rushed time window in which the game was most likely developed. But it's nice that we've got the characters we've got. The arenas are all very cool, and the characters, they do a lot of talking throughout the fights, and there is, as General already said, there is some unique dialogue for quite a lot of the combatant pairings. Not every line is unique, a lot of it is generic fight banter, but the handful of unique lines that are in the versus mode is very interesting. Things like Sarah Keto saying to Darth Vader, "Which one of those buttons calls for help?" Or Obi-Wan telling Mace, "You've been hiding behind that purple lightsaber for long enough." Or Obi-Wan saying to his older self, old Ben, "You've shown me one thing, I'd better stay in shape."
Oh yeah, I love the one which is Grievous versus Darth Vader, where Grievous says, "What are you, a man or a machine?" Love that one.
Oh, Grievous says that to Vader.
Yeah, I know, because I jokingly said that line several times in one of my classes in elementary school. In a computer class we're doing, recording voices to learn new language, and I just jokingly was saying that line several times, and the whole class was just laughing. That's why I remember that one so very well. But yeah, he does actually say it in the game.
There are a couple of other lines that are interesting also. Things like episode 3 Obi-Wan saying to Vader in the suit, "You are an abomination to the living force." And if you have Obi-Wan blade lock with Vader in the versus mode, because blade locks are a feature in this game's combat system, he'll say, "Give it up, Vader." And I kind of wonder, is that meant to be contextualized as Obi-Wan knowing that's Anakin in there, or is that just unique fight banter for the sake of it being unique fight banter?
I'm gonna assume he's just calling him Vader because that's just what he officially is dubbed as. You know, it's not dubbed as Anakin when he becomes, you know, the fully black cyborg suited. So, I guess.
Well, no, but see, what makes it difficult is that in the film, Obi-Wan does find out Anakin's Sith name, and that's what makes those lines with Vader a bit more difficult to pin down in terms of their meaning.
I mean, yeah. Then I guess he wouldn't know by that point. So in that case, I mean, yeah, he could know. So whatever.
So there are a couple of other lines that just came to my head. Mace Windu saying to Vader, "I'm going to send you to the scrap heap." Or a really interesting one, which gives the uninitiated a bit of an insight into Grievous's origins. Dooku will sometimes say to Grievous, "I created you, now I will destroy you."
Oh, that is definitely a cool one. Yeah, that's a cool one. This versus mode, I think is pretty cool. So yeah. What other bonus content is in this game? I know there's plenty of the extras menu, and I'm pretty sure Henson has some stuff in the guide that he's just dying to tell us about. So look, what extras are there in the game?
Just one more thing with the versus mode: the alternate character skins.
Oh yeah, those are pretty cool. Anakin is like just hooded with a red lightsaber. Obi-Wan, he wears a cape with a green lightsaber. Dooku, it says that he's wearing his Attack of the Clones outfit, but with a blue lightsaber. I didn't see any difference between his Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith one. I thought they were the same, but okay. So, yeah. And Grievous, he's just tinted blue with red lightsabers, which I guess it kind of, I believe that's taken from a specific Star Wars source. I don't know which one. If you know which one, you can tell me. Mace Windu has dark clothing and wields a blue lightsaber. So what, is that like based on his earlier appearances with the blue lightsaber? Sarakat and Syndraulic are just black clothes with red lightsabers. Lol, like dark side versions of them. And then Darth Vader is wearing a light-colored armor and blue lightsaber, and the Ben Kenobi is just not hooded with green lightsaber. So, some cool alternate costumes.
In addition to the blue blade, the player 2 Vader actually has this blue tint running throughout the armor.
So it's kind of like that carbonized Black Series figure, like that shit.
That's immediately. Who knows? Did Hasbro dig deep into the gaming and discover that Vader skin? Is that where that Vader figure comes from? But regardless. Another example. Well, sadly, you can't choose which appearance for the characters you want to use. Whichever player you are in the context of the versus mode, you are locked into using that skin if you both want to use the same character.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, as I say, you can't choose them, so you can't have, just as an example, you can't have Sith Anakin with the hooded cape and red saber against Jedi Dooku or whatever.
That would be something that would be cool if there would be a remaster of this game that could allow that option. That would be cool.
Along with tons of other skins, and even more characters. But maybe that's for the dueling mode. But maybe that's going into remake territory. In terms of other extras, yes, there's concept art. You can rewatch all of the in-game cinematics if you want to do that. There is cheat codes,
nice.
For those who remember those glorious things.
Oh, Henson certainly must remember those.
Yes, that's another of the time element here.
Yeah.
Kids today and all that. Back then, you had cheat codes that could do a multitude of things. But now, if you want invincibility in the game, you the shit out of it, because that's not going to be a thing.
Yeah, you have to pay money for it.
Well, not even just that. You know, like back then you could get a game and have a cheat code that unlocks invincibility, infinite ammo, that sort of thing, but you don't really see that anymore.
Oh, yeah. Any other extras, Luke?
Gone through all the missions. We've gone through the versus mode. Yeah. Have you anything to say, Henson, regarding the concept art?
Well, of the concept art that's included within the game guide, not much. Just one of those things that's cool to have. But on the subject of the game guide, it's cool to get this not only for the character descriptions we get at the start, but also for the interview at the end with Anthony Doe, lead combat designer / scripter for the collective, Nick Gillard, the stunt coordinator, as well as Justin Lambros, associate producer. And honestly, just overall, it's just really cool to have something like this. Not only for those reasons, but do they even make game guides anymore?
Not physically.
You know, this was back in a time where if you wanted to solve an issue you were having with the game, you either had to ask a friend or get a fucking book. And, you know, on the one hand, these things, for the most part, weren't really necessary. But, still, you know, they could be useful, but nowadays, you know, with throughs, I can see why these became obsolete, but at the same time, in the case of me being into the lore of having these character profiles, going into detail about them, is quite useful for me. And also, something to note, the cover for this video game, really cool image of Anakin and Obi-Wan fighting on Mustafar. Anakin on the left there, you can see that he doesn't have his robotic hand as it's shooting out lightning. That's not accurate at all.
Lol. I actually never noticed that. Like, I always saw the cover, but I literally didn't notice that, yeah, it's actually missing the robotic hand in one of them.
Not as big of a detail, I'll admit, but for a long time, and I've noticed this with the cover, I think both Jedi have the incorrect respective lightsaber hilts, because Anakin's hilt in this cover art looks much more like a Darth Vader hilt than his actual Jedi Knight lightsaber that he has at this point in the lore. And Obi-Wan's hilt, for a long time I thought, in the pose where he's force pushing the droid, I thought that might have been his episode 1 and 2 hilt, but now I'm thinking that it kind of looks like another Jedi's hilt altogether.
It kind of does. Yeah, it does look like another, yeah. I do find it funny that how some of the images in that cover, by the way, some of them are actually in like very low res, like 360 to 40p. Like the in-game screenshots, they do look like they're very like low res. It's kind of funny. So yeah. And I love how the back of the box also says, "Oh, the powers of the Jedi. Play as Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi. Experience epic duels from the film that test your lightsaber skills and force powers. Enhance your Jedi with new combo moves and upgradable attacks." And then it says, "Exclusive movie content. The only video game to feature footage from Revenge of the Sith. Gripping movie sound effects created by Skywalker Sound. Authentic Star Wars soundtrack intensifies the action." And then it even says, "Go beyond the film. Battle through 16 interactive levels, including never-before-seen locations inspired by the film. Clash with Darth Vader and other enemies in multiplayer duels. Unlock other characters, locations, and bonuses." And then it says, "The ultimate Jedi action experience. With actual film footage from the Episode 3 movie." Yeah.
Yes, remember when a video game
Go ahead.
could sold on using from the...
Yeah. Also, remember when video games actually, most of the time when they put stuff in the box art and they tell you about it, it actually, telling you the features of what the game's going to have, you actually see it, versus nowadays where the game can be rushed, can be literally incomplete, broken beyond belief, and you have to literally wait for patches just so it literally is a game that was marketed in the fucking box. Oh, those were the days. Anyway, so there is that, and as for any other stuff to discuss about this game, well, we already mentioned a few of your connections. There's not many, because this is an adaptation of episode 3, but some of the enemies we already mentioned, like the big two grapple droids, the blaze troopers, the assassins, they show up in other media, mainly the Clone Wars campaign guide, and of course, the Primo official guide, the one Henson has in his hands. Jedi Sniper, surprisingly, they are actually mentioned in the Jedi Path, a manual for students of the Force, and of course, there's also the B1 droids being in Galaxy at War, so that's pretty interesting. But yeah, not much more to say on that.
So the grapple droid was in a Clone Wars adventure story.
Oh yeah, it was, definitely.
As well as making a brief appearance in Son of Dathomir, which possibly means that we would have had to show up in the episode, which is wild to think about because TCW didn't really incorporate a lot of EU exclusive droids and clones. I mean, we had the Commandos.
Yeah.
Well, it is a shame that a lot of the enemy types here didn't really make a lot of appearances, and I think that is mostly post-Sith. You didn't, and TCW aside, you didn't have much in the way of story set during the Clone Wars. Like, once the multimedia was done, that was basically it. We'll add the Republic Commando novels, but that was pretty much it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Indeed. In regards to this game, if it ever gets re-released by either Night Dive or Asper or whomever else, so what would you guys like to see in this remaster of a game? This re-release?
I want skins.
Okay.
I mean, really, any problems I have here are more story-based, and there's nothing you can do about that, and it's not even really a problem, really. So, for a remaster, I would want them to add in skins that I could play during the game.
Mm-hmm.
2-player co-op just makes sense. I don't know why that wasn't a thing here. Maybe add characters to the fighting mode, but maybe a stretch there. So at the very least, playable skins during the campaign, co-op during the campaign.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I would say that's pretty much it, unless there's some cut content that they could reinsert back.
Mm-hmm. Well, for that, then I'll let Luke now say what he wants in this remaster.
See, it's difficult for my vision to fit within the confines of a remaster, because remasters more or less take what already exists and just make it more accessible for current hardware. A lot of what I would want probably veers much closer to remake territory, but I'll go through what I would like to see anyway. So I would definitely like for an updated version of this to incorporate some degree of co-op in the campaign, specifically for the levels where Anakin and Obi-Wan are actually together, and I think being able to play the Mustafar duel in co-op would be very interesting also. Also, as a base, make sure the original game is not royally fucked up. Probably should have said that from the outset.
Can't believe we're saying that for a fucking remaster of a 20-year-old game.
Okay, yeah. So, number one priority, give us the original game on current plans with all of the existing content, not screwed up. Make sure that it's technically polished, that none of existing episode game has been scrapped for this hypothetical. As I say, give us some degree of co-op in the campaign. That would be nice. I would say, because we're no longer subject to the deadline of the film, we're 20 years past that now, how about giving us an expanded campaign with a handful of story missions, reintegrating key moments that were lost, things like certain lightsaber duels, you can probably guess the ones I'm thinking of, and maybe, and this is something I've said to you before, General, but Henson brought it up earlier, why not give us a Force Unleashed-esque couple of levels, like maybe 2 or 3 more levels that further flesh out the alternate ending. Definitely more characters for the versus mode, because, Sacy Tin, Kit Fisto, Aegon Kolar, who is the particular omitted Jedi I was alluding to with all the Zabraks in the Jedi Temple mission. Shakti, maybe make Ventress a premier skin for Sarah Keto, if you want to integrate her somehow. Give us a shed load more skins to choose from, because there are a lot of appearances you could go for with that. And of course, if the campaign was expanded, that would mean more arenas in the versus mode. Maybe as well expand the bonus and co-op mission. I don't know, maybe the original vision for the final lesson, so that 2v1, that's just as one example. How you could expand the co-op series of missions in that dedicated, I don't know, but it would be nice. And yeah, that's pretty much... Yeah, so the base game, not messed up, and give us a whole bunch of extra goodies on top of that.
Okay. Well, as for me, I guess all the same requests that Luke asked. Yeah, definitely I want all of that. And the one that I want to stress the most is for the freaking release to be released in a good state, because seriously, that Battlefront Classic garbage collection is the fucking worst release Star Wars has seen so far. Seriously, just don't fucking do that again, because I swear if it's Asper who's doing this one again, actually, you know what? It's not me who should be worried. It's Luke, because this is his favorite video game of all time. And if this one is in the hands of Asper, oof, well, oh, that's gonna be fun, Luke.
I swear, if Aspire see this and the wrong ideas come to their heads, then you know who to blame, people.
Well, I guess there's that, yeah. Especially since they literally did Bounty Hunter right after right after Henson wanted that to be done by Night Dive. So who knows? Maybe they could do the same with episode 3. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, so I prefer Night Dive to do it. But you know what? If it's Asper, then at the very least, just have it released in a good state. Don't fuck it up like you did with Classic Collection and to some bit of extent Bounty Hunter, because they didn't address any of the major issues for that game. So yeah, don't fuck it up. So yeah, and well, that's all I gotta say on this one. So anything else to say, guys?
I've pretty much said all I can say, so...
Okay, well, then now we go to the conclusion. So, who wants to go first?
So overall, this is an example of a pretty good tie-in game. Certainly not the best, in my opinion, but it's certainly up there. The story, you don't play the game for the story, but the inclusions it does have is really interesting. And it's a shame this game never got any kind of sequel, where you could have seen the gameplay expanded upon a bit more.
Yeah, that would have been... Yeah. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. Look.
Objectively, The Revenge of the Sith game is not the best Star Wars game ever made, but I think it will take something revolutionary at this point for the Star game to knock this game out of the center of my heart, because as a tie-in to the film and a very enjoyable game, especially if you're a die-hard fan of the film, this game, much like the movie it's based on, it means a lot more to me than I can really put into words. Which to some people that will be heresy, because there are so many Star Wars games that are not only better than this but contribute a lot more to the mythos than this does. But at the end of the day, a game that means a lot to you is a game that means a lot to you, and I can't help it. So if you love Revenge of the Sith as much as me, and by some chance have not played this game, what are you doing? Get your old PS2 or Xbox out, or if your PC is powerful enough, well, you can probably figure out what the solution is there, and play this. It may not be the richest of experiences, but if you're a diehard Episode 3 fan, you will have one great time.
Is that it?
Yes.
Okay. As for me, this game is a pretty cool Star Wars game. Pretty good one. And I definitely do really enjoy it. It's definitely based on my favorite movie of all time. And it is definitely a treat to play in the console version. It's definitely really cool. And yeah, I definitely also enjoy a lot playing it with my friends in the versus mode, and also playing the campaign myself. It's just an awesome time to play. And yeah, any Star Wars fan, especially Episode 3 fans, seriously, play this game. Get an original Xbox, get a PS2, or emulate it on PC, or hell, you can even do backwards compatibility with the PS3 and Xbox 360, and you can play there. You can also do that. So definitely, there's several ways to do it. Just go and find it and play it. It really is worth time. And if it does get re-released, definitely do buy it if it's a good re-release and not a broken, messy piece of shit. We'll see. But
Just to preempt, if it gets an official re-release of any sort, a remaster, a remake, whatever, chances are you'll hear us talk about it.
So yeah, this game's pretty cool. Definitely play it. Definitely give it a shot. And contrary to popular belief, where a lot of video game tie-ins are considered bad, which yeah, a good chunk of them are. And this game was actually on that list, in some lists of considered worst games of all time, or worst Star Wars games of all time. Surprisingly, back then, not so much nowadays. Nowadays, it's seen more fondly. But back then, years ago, it definitely was. I believe it was during the prequel trilogy hate train. So definitely ignore that and just actually play this game. It is pretty good. Yes, it's not the deepest hack and slash game. Yes, it's probably not the deepest fighting game, but it's pretty entertaining. It's pretty fun, and definitely play it. It's awesome. And with that said, this is our podcast on the episode 3, the console version. Stay tuned for next time, where we will be tackling the handheld version. Yep, stay tuned for that one. And that's it for this video, and we'll see you guys on the next State of Star Wars video. Bye bye.
So,
May the Force be with you.